Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 171 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. This is the last episode before E3 2019. It's almost here, just a few days away. Got some big plans for E3 this year, and we're going to run through all of them for you guys here on the show. Also, by the time this episode is done, you guys are going to be primed and ready for E3. We have 3 or 4 publisher previews. 2 of them are the big ones. One's Microsoft, one's Nintendo. So by the time the show is up, we will have made it through all the publishers, and you guys will be primed and ready for all the big stuff to come at E3 2019. And in fact, we're going to kick off the show talking about what we're doing as Sifted at E3. So streaming-wise, you guys are watching us on Twitch, and obviously Twitch is a big part of any modern gaming publication's repertoire, and we're going to be spending a lot of time on Twitch through E3. So Sam, if you bring up the graphic, we'll run you through it. So as you guys know, there's no Sony this year. Nintendo's doing another Direct. So that has kind of chopped down the amount of live press conferences that we're doing this year. So most of our streaming is taking place on Sunday, June 9th and Monday, June 10th. Everything kicks off on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be doing an Xbox media briefing pre-show. But also what we'll be doing on that day is giving our analysis of the EA events from the day before. So EA is not doing a press conference. It is doing a stream all day Saturday. And they're going to show off Jedi Fallen Order and a bunch of other stuff. So Matt and I will be addressing that. We're not going to sit and watch their stream all day and do live commentary for a 10-hour stream, but we will be wrapping up what was shown on EA's stream right at the beginning of the stream on Sunday. So we have half an hour to go over EA and get you primed for Microsoft, and then Microsoft's press conference kicks off. We're going to sit here and watch it live with you guys. Matt and I will be providing live commentary over top of the stream. It's going to be a good time. We've done it the last couple years. It's been a lot of fun sharing the press conferences with you guys. So we're going to be doing that for all of them. And then following the end of the press conference, we'll have 15 minutes to a half an hour to provide our analysis of the Microsoft press conference. And then there's a bit of a layoff because, let's see, 5:30. Yeah, we'll have about an hour and a half between streams at that point, and we'll be coming back for...
You mean layover.
What do you say?
Hopefully you're not going to lay Sam off.
Yeah.
Between shows, we did that before. That's bad.
Yep. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, that's when Bethesda's pre-show will start. At 8:30 p.m., the press conference actually happens. We'll be doing a live hangout for that, and then analysis after that. Then we go to Monday. Monday, we've got Ubisoft starting at 3:30. And again, it's the same process. We do a pre-show. We do the hangout with you for the live press conference. And then we do our analysis. So we have Ubisoft at 3:30 and then Square Enix at 5:30. And there's really no break on Monday at all. We're probably going to have a stream that's going to be live for like 5 or 6 hours straight. Maybe not that long. Probably closer to like 4 hours, something like that. But everything just kind of runs in congruency with each other on Monday. So we're going to be hanging with you guys for many hours on Monday afternoon into early evening. And then Tuesday is Nintendo. We're still working on that. I'm trying to get something figured out so Vincent and I can do something. At the very least, I think Vincent and I will probably record at least some commentary on the Nintendo Direct that is aired that day, and we'll try to get that analysis up for you right away. We're still working on that. It's still fluid, so stay tuned on that. Let's see. Let's talk about E3 in general from Sifted. First of all, I guess a warning to any of you guys who are thinking about buying a shirt in the next couple days. We're going to be doing an E3 2019 flash sale on our latest t-shirt designs. And that will kick off literally as soon as we start our stream on Sunday. And then that sale will run for the whole week of E3 and will shut down on Sunday afternoon after E3. So keep that in mind. The shirts are going to be $15, down from $25. And it's only going to be for that week. So when that week is up, they're going right back to $25 again. So if you've been waiting for a sale on our latest round of t-shirts, folks, this is it. Another thing I should add is All sizes and colors are back in stock because when we first got the t-shirts done, we set aside a bunch of them just for Patreon folks who hit the t-shirt tier on our Patreon. And we set aside way more than we needed to. So we've taken most of that stock and put it back into the general stock for you guys to buy. So our orange shirts, you can get those in every color or in every size during the flash sale. So don't buy any shirts over the next few days because they're going to drop down to $15 beginning at the beginning of E3, and that sale will run all through the week. And then again, they go right back to $25 after that. So if you've been waiting to buy a shirt, this is the time, and I would appreciate it very much. We got a lot of stock to get rid of still. So keep that in mind as the week comes up. And then as we get into our general E3 coverage, one thing we did last year that people seem to love is I did an E3 diary for every day of the show. So I would go to the show, I would come back, I would kind of unwind, unload, or download my stuff to you guys as far as what I experienced that day at the show. We're going to be doing those all 3 days. There's also going to be a poll posted in our forums in the next couple days where you guys are going to be able to pick what games you want me to check out on the show floor. We're going to call it our E3 hit list. And our 20 most anticipated games countdown is going to also coming up here in the next couple days. We're basically just going to take those 20 games and let you guys vote on them as far as which games you want us to kind of seek out and get more information on the show floor. We're going to be recording an episode of Pactor Factor from the show floor. We're going to record an episode of Ask Shane Anything from the show floor. So we're going to be calling for questions for that on both Sifted and on our Patreon the week of the show. We want to wait until all this stuff happens so you guys have better questions to ask us. We're going to be doing Man on the Street stuff from E3 again this year. But whereas last year the angle was it worth it to come to E3? The angle this year is E3 viable going forward? So we're going to talk to people, get their experience. We're going to do those interviews on the last day of E3.
That guy.
You probably know everybody in this shot.
The one guy who just walked by on the left side is like I've only known him for like a year and a half. He's one of my recent acquisitions.
Yep. So that's the stuff we're going to be doing on the show floor of E3. And then, as usual, our Best of E3 awards, they will be going down on Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. All of this stuff, by the way, is in an article on Sifted right now, and it's pinned at the top of all of your Sifts.
What happened to that Ninjala thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I bet it'll be there again.
Probably. So anyway, that article, if this is a lot to remember with me just saying it, the article is up on Sifted right now. You guys can go and get the schedule. Obviously, we are Sifted. A big part of E3 for us is curating all the stories. If you're watching this on YouTube, and we are putting up this episode on YouTube a lot more quickly than we usually do because we realize it's going to be pointless for you to watch this once E3 is over. If you are on YouTube and you're not using Sifted for E3, you're crazy. I know a lot of you guys on YouTube have never even given Sifted a chance, and honestly, that's true of a lot of people. I have no idea why. I think when you use Sifted at E3, you will understand why we built the site. I mean, it's great every day, but at E3, it really, really shows its power. So the hub is already up. There's already almost 100 pieces of content in our E3 hub, and we're like 5 days away from E3. So I implore you to use Sifted during E3. And if you do that and you feel unsatisfied with it, I will be shocked. So everybody give it a shot during E3. I have a feeling once you do that, you will become a regular user of the site. Just give the site a chance. Break out of your patterns. Trust me, the reason I built this site was because I was tired of doing what you're doing, which is wasting your time searching for crap. So anyway, big plans for E3 2019. We are really excited about it. We'll see how the show is. There's some trepidation about the show, I think, from most people right now. But one thing I've noticed over the last week and a half really preparing for the show is there's going to be a ton of great games there. In fact, getting the list down to 20 for the most anticipated games of E3 was really, really hard. And it was a list that changed constantly for 3 or 4 days. So look out for that in the next couple days. But that's what we're doing for E3 here at Sifted. Really excited about it. We'll be here at Matt's. Sam will be at the controls of the TriCaster, and we are ready to bring you everything from E3, and a lot of it live and with us as friends. So there you go. We'll see you guys. Next stream will be on Sunday afternoon, and from then on, it's just 2 days straight of 4+ hours of streaming from us. So we hope.
Isn't the Square press conference at 6 our time? I feel like Square is in the evening.
It is in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're East Coast, it's in the evening.
No, I think isn't it 6 p.m. our time?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, the schedules, I looked at these schedules from the publishers, and this is what they had. There could have been a typo, maybe.
Maybe.
If there is a mistake, we'll go and we'll fix it on the article on
chat's
the
saying
site.
Square 6 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, it is? Okay,
So
then we
it's
need to
basically
fix that.
pretty much the same. So we'll have the gap both days.
Same gap both days. Okay. And we'll go and fix that in the article on the site
I don't
as well.
mind that.
I literally got that information from Square Enix, from its press release.
Well, I'm going to guess that that's a preview of the kind of thing we're going to see.
So, you may be right.
They don't even know what time their press conference goes live. You ain't getting a Final Fantasy VII release date, folks. That's my prediction. It's my Pactor prediction right here.
So anyway, let's kick off the show proper. We're going to start things off with maybe the biggest publisher at the show this year, Nintendo. Nintendo is hitting the sweet spot of Switch. Year 3.
Certainly the one with the most momentum.
Yeah. I mean, year 3 of any platform generally is usually that platform's best year. I don't know if that's going to be the case for Switch. You can make that decision after we run through all its E3 stuff. But usually the third year is when it hits its stride. All the developers are good at working on the hardware.
Most platforms don't have the first year Switch.
Yeah. I mean, when you have Mario and Zelda,
put a Mario and a Zelda game out in your first year, you're basically playing catch up for the rest of the
It's hard to beat. Absolutely. So let's start running down through some of the stuff that Nintendo has on tap. Obviously, there's probably going to be a couple surprises here and there. At least we hope so. The thing that was announced today, or at least a rumor, is that there are going to be 21 new games for Switch at E3.
Yeah, that comes from the pre-order. Was it the pre-order slots that were put up on GameStop?
Yeah. So that could be
anything from Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 to port a 4-year-old game you've played 14 times.
I mean, let's be honest. On a given day, there are probably 4 indie games announced for Switch.
Yeah, but at least in this case, we're talking about presumably physical retail releases.
Because if they would sell them at GameStop, then they'd have to be, they're probably not all indie games. So, but they could be ports of old games, and that's probably what most of them are. Still encouraging,
If you believe the rumors, one of them is The Witcher 3.
Yeah, so, which is a big deal.
Sorta.
Well, for Nintendo people who have never had anything but a Nintendo console, it's a gigantic deal.
I guess, but wow.
I can't believe there are still people like that, but there are. And there's a lot of them. Well, probably 5 or 6 million of them.
Well, the worst part of it, aside from how scaled back that's going to have to be to work on the Switch, is they're going to charge $60 for it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Gouging.
Are you kidding me?
I kind of have a ethical quandary about the way they gouge the Switch owners on the prices of the ancient ports.
Yeah.
I feel like you should at least kind of go 40.
You'd think, but. I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of Nintendo fans are suckers, and they'll take whatever.
They'll pay it, so I guess it doesn't matter. But
I think we figured out how many people only buy Nintendo consoles, and it's like 5 million. I mean, basically, most of the sales of the Wii U are people who only buy Nintendo platforms, and boy, that must have been a real tough 3 years. But yeah, I think there's a market for it for sure for Witcher 3.
I mean, if you can get it to work on that, sure. I mean, the vanilla PS4 can barely run that thing. I guess if you'd scale the resolution way down, or it's the launch thing for getting that streaming tech over in the West. Although, why would GameStop be selling that?
Right.
So I don't know.
Yep. So that for Nintendo fans, that's a big get to finally be able to play The Witcher 3. So I understand that. It's yesterday's news for everybody else, but. There's a lot of people out there who just own Nintendo consoles. So let's get into some of Nintendo's first-party stuff. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. I hate to say it, but this is the game that came to mind first for me as being most excited for at E3.
I am more excited about Pokemon, but I'm a Pokemon
That's
fan.
my close second.
This I'm certainly interested in, but Link's Awakening is not one of my favorite Zelda games. Which is apparently heresy. I didn't know that.
I really like it. It's probably my second favorite 2D Zelda.
One of my clearest memories of getting on Usenet back in the day was being shocked at how beloved this game was.
Yeah,
I
love it.
I always found it kind of a pleasant little diversion. It was a nice to have thing, but I never thought it touched Link to the Past.
Link to the Past is my favorite.
Or even
favorite 2D Zelda.
The original, although the original has gone down in my estimation a lot because it's just so
It is so old,
now.
yeah. I still think it looks like the dentist from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but
yeah, he does kind of look, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 1,000% behind this art style, but to me, the puzzles and the game design and structure, the story of this game,
it'll be good to play it again.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this.
In the way that it was good to play like Metroid 2 again.
Yeah.
In the remake of that.
Yep. The crazy part about it is that there have been rumors swirling that like this game was just going to be shadow dropped, and like people were thinking after the last Direct that it was just going to be announced at the Direct that it's available now. That turned out not to happen.
Of course, they're not going to just put this out digitally. It's got to ship to retailers.
Yeah.
So no, Nintendo doesn't really shadow drop stuff that gets retail releases.
Yeah.
No one does that now.
Diddy Kong Racing is the only one I could think of.
Yeah. Well, and the Saturn.
Yeah. You said Nintendo though.
Yeah. Well, but like. I'm just thinking about like the only times
things that
hardware
that big
has
that have been
done
shadow
that.
dropped. Yeah,
and like that didn't work out so well.
No,
for Sega. So
definitely did not.
But that's what happens when you launch a system with a bug.
Yeah.
And Clockwork Knight
Yep.
instead of Breath of the Wild.
I do have a feeling that this game is not going to be too far away though.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if this was like their late summer entry.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they say like it's coming out in 6 weeks or 2 months.
Yeah, because Pokemon is anchoring the holiday season,
Yep.
and I figure Animal Crossing's in there somewhere too. Because Animal Crossing, as much as people don't really always realize it, because I saw Pactor's predictions where he's talking about how like he thinks there's going to be a Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Because it's the only one of the big ones that hasn't been, and it's like I recognize that Mario Kart is big because of how it sells, but Animal Crossing is one of their top 5 now. So
we'll get to Animal Crossing.
So I think that's your anchor. That's your other anchor with Pokemon in the fall. So yeah, I think Link's Awakening could come out earlier than we think, and they would be fine because they do need something in that summer quarter.
Maybe September for Link's Awakening, October for Animal Crossing, November for Pokemon.
I wouldn't be super shocked to see Link as kind of a late August, like kind of kick off the holiday season thing.
Not a bad call.
Especially now that Shenmue 3 is not there.
Can't say I'm surprised.
That game's going to get buried if they keep it in November.
I mean, that game might get buried anyway.
Well, yeah, but like they gotta
it might get buried by critics.
They gotta push that to spring. Like
I'd agree with that.
Then again, Jason Schreier says spring is crazier than the rest of this year. So
yeah.
Maybe it's just doomed.
It just might be. I mean, look, no matter what, there's going to be a big audience that buys it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
most of us have already paid for it.
Right. So. Yeah, that's a good point. They've already made their money. Next up, Luigi's Mansion 3. I think I'm way more excited for this than pretty much everybody else. Not 100% sure why, because I reviewed the original for GameSpot and did not give it a really big score and caught a lot of hell for it from people who had never played it, because that's how the internet works. But I still really liked it, and I liked the concept. I just felt like I couldn't recommend for people to pay for it at full price because it lasted like 5 hours. It wasn't very long, and that's a concern with this one too. But I hope that Nintendo learned its lesson with the first one, and this one's going to be a little bit beefier than the first game. But
did they ever put out the remake of this, the first one?
No, They put out Dark Moon on 3DS, and there was an arcade version of Luigi's Mansion that was released in Japan.
But didn't they announce like a remake?
I don't think so.
I thought they announced
Maybe
like a remaster
for 3DS or something?
No, I thought it was a Switch remaster of the first game.
I don't know.
Maybe I made that up. I don't know.
Maybe it'll be a secret bonus on Luigi's Mansion 3. But
that'll solve the length problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of the first Luigi's Mansion. I played most of Dark Moon, but not the whole thing, so I can't really pass too much judgment on it. But it was also good, and it was not made by the same team that made the original. So hopefully Luigi's Mansion 3 can turn out pretty good. I mean, this game's supposed to come out this year. That release schedule's starting to get real crowded right about now, but that's a good problem to have if you're Nintendo or if you're a Switch owner. Next up, Pokemon Sword and Shield. They've pretty much blown that. I'm surprised how much they've blown this game out. When it was unveiled, they put out this huge trailer you're seeing right now. They just did a big press conference with Game Freak and the Pokemon Company.
Well, that seems to be the new tradition, judging by last year. I think it sounds like Pokemon Company is just going to do an early kind of direct before, because they want to be kind of seen as separate to some degree.
Yeah. I'm definitely not as excited for this as you are. I think a part of it is because I just played Let's Go for a really, really long time, just like 4 or 5 months ago. And
I'm excited because it's not going to have the things in Let's Go that annoyed me.
Yeah.
Because it's just a straight Pokemon game.
It is. And I would say I was surprised that Let's Go was more of a straight Pokemon game than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it was. But like the motion control stuff annoyed the hell out of me, and the lack of options of how to play it, like handheld versus docked, and like, it was charming, but like this is going to be more, I think.
Well, this is the real McCoy.
Yeah, this is going to be the thing that I'm after.
This is canon, new canon coming here. The game's going to be gigantic. We don't need to tell you guys that. We don't even really need to talk about it. You guys
and
are
conveniently, it's 2 SKUs, so that further fills out GameStop's 21.
Right, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Which one are you going to buy, Sword or Shield?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, my inclination is Sword, but we'll see who the exclusive Pokemon are in each one.
Yeah, I mean that's usually what determines it. I mean they've unveiled the Pokemon, sort of some of the new starter Pokemon for the game, but you're right, we don't know what the exclusives are yet for each version. We don't even need to talk about this anymore. I'm guessing everyone listening to this or watching this right now has already pre-ordered this game and they're all in.
Unless they're still deciding which one to get.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Actually, I tend to collect both versions, so I might just when Sun and Moon came out, Amazon did that like double steelbook. Like if they do something like that, I'll probably get that.
It'll be interesting to see if this is like. I mean, you would guess this would be the big crux of Nintendo's booth. Because the way Nintendo's really done it the last several years is it has one big game that kind of takes over the whole booth.
Sort of, but last year it was more just sort of plain white. Like it was sort of it was kind of corporate.
Yeah. But do you want a Pokemon game to be like that focal point? You want people to know, obviously, it's coming, but it's kind of a weird game to play at a convention.
Yeah,
not a lot of action.
Wouldn't really demo well.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird.
I mean, you could just use it as sort of the decorative theme.
Yeah.
Alternately, you could just double down on Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
But that feels like not a thing you'd want to do because it doesn't get you anything in the game space.
Right.
Although they are apparently going to do a sequel to the game.
I mean, look, they could take their pick. They have so many big first-party games at this show. There could be other games that take over the booth.
My guess is there's going to be like sections. There'll be a Pokemon section. There'll be a Mario Maker 2 section because they had a similar thing for the first one.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the big part of the booth, the big theme.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with the Mario Maker theme that just sort of naturally grafts onto a booth. Expo booth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next up, Animal Crossing. We discussed that a little bit earlier. You're absolutely right.
That would also be a thing you could do. Like the whole booth could just be like a village.
Yeah.
And you could sort of go through in each village. Each house is like surrounded by kiosks or whatever.
And I think you're right. Pac consistently discounts how popular his series is. It wasn't just in that episode. Like, if for whatever reason he has this mental block about Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing is a juggernaut.
It's huge.
Like, yeah.
But he is right. I mean, Mario Kart is the best-selling game.
Yeah.
Already, Mario Kart 8 is the best-selling Switch game, which is just a port of the Wii U game. So...
but also the argument on there kind of also could run the other way, and like, why put out another one when the current one's still selling pretty well?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's too early. I think he's wrong.
I mean, right now,
I don't think,
especially when you're going to introduce, you're presumably going to introduce the new Switch model, maybe another one next year. Mario Kart 8 seems to be like almost the default buy it with the system game. So like, why mess with that?
Or why not just start packing it in with Switch instead of like cutting the price? Just start packing in Mario Kart.
Yeah,
with
I feel like that's the next step.
And I think the other thing, too, about it is that Mario Kart 8 is a game as a service, let's be honest. Like, it got a ton of DLC after it released. It's kind of a platform and not really a game.
Yeah, I don't think it gains them much to put out 9 this soon.
I don't think so either. I think maybe next holiday season we get Mario Kart.
Because I think to the large majority of people who didn't own a Wii U, Mario Kart 8 is a new game.
Oh, yeah. It's the brand new Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's most people.
Yeah.
I mean, the Switch has destroyed the Wii U. So
certainly most of those sales are from people who did not play it before.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of people who did not play it before.
So I am skeptical about Mario Kart.
I am absolutely skeptical.
And,
I'd say there's a 5% chance at best that a new Mario Kart is announced.
In part because I think, I just don't think you need it, both in terms of that and because you've got Animal Crossing for the big numbers.
Yep, absolutely. You have
assuming,
Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yeah, Pokemon, and also like I assume we're going to see Smash Brothers come back into the top 10 at some point during the holiday season.
Yeah, maybe they drop the price by $10 or whatever.
Yeah,
they don't even have to really. As people buy Switches, they're going to buy Smash. It's just kind of 1-to-1. But
like I said, while a lot of the lineup is not super exciting to me, they have momentum like nobody else.
Oh, Nintendo is going to have a gigantic last 2 quarters of this year. Gigantic. As far as Animal Crossing is concerned, though, what are you looking for in a new Animal Crossing? Because I feel like
absolutely nothing. I'm not going to play that game. I did that already.
Okay, I play them. I play.
I don't play. I think the last one I played was New Leaf, and like there's just a point I hit because those games eventually just like make me irritated that I spend so much time playing them.
I feel bad about it. Yeah,
and at a certain point I'm like, you know what? I don't think I need to do this to myself again.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm just going to skip it. Like unless something happens with the next one where like literally everyone I know is playing it and it's got some crazy networking features that like make it interesting and worthwhile. Like I'm probably just I don't need to owe that damn raccoon any more money. Like
I play every one, and this is one series where for me, and usually Pokemon's this way too, is that they come out, they're spread out so far, their releases, that I play the crap out of it, and then I don't have to worry about it for another like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Although I do.
And you're right. I feel bad. Like after I finally stop playing one of these games, I feel guilty. I'm like, what? I just wasted.
And for what?
For what? No, you're right. Like I always feel that way. And then yet when another one comes out, there I am booting it up, and like next thing I know, I'm hooked on it all over again. So to maybe rephrase the question, what would an Animal Crossing need to get you to try it again?
My niece would have to talk me into it.
Oh, really?
Basically. Like, there is nothing that you could do in the game that would make me want to play it again. It would have to be a social phenomenon.
Gotcha.
It would have to be something like...
Which would probably mean there's
I'd have
some
to be
feature in
peer
it.
pressured.
Yeah.
Well, in the case of my niece, it would just mean because it's a new Animal Crossing game. Like
That's all it takes.
She's young. She has nothing but time, and she's not sick of any of this yet. So so that might be if she wants like... You know, if she wants me to play so I can like get stuff and help trade stuff with her and all that kind of thing, I could do that. But like, yeah, you're gonna have to be related to me by blood to get this game in my system here.
Yeah, I think for most people that will not be the case. I think
I am a vanishingly small minority in that regard. I think this game is gonna be gigantic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna be like Smash Brothers gigantic, but it's gonna sell 10+ million.
Oh, by the way, this is not footage of the Switch version of Animal Crossing.
Yeah, this is the Wii game.
I'm sure most people have figured this out, but what I've learned is that on YouTube, not everybody does figure stuff out. So this is not the Switch version.
This is the Switch version of The Witcher 3.
Yeah. Let's see. Next, Super Mario Maker 2. We've talked about that already today. We've talked about it the last couple episodes. We don't really need to talk about it again. But
gonna be there. Probably gonna be blocks laying around in the booth.
Yeah, they'll be. Yeah,
because this game does demo really well.
It does. Yeah. And that. Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if the whole booth is built to make it look like it was built in Super Mario Maker 2.
And I would also expect that this will be the game in their booth that will be easiest to play.
Yeah.
Like, I think this will have the most demo kiosks.
Probably. I don't know. I think
they love pushing this thing.
They do. You're right. I mean, their whole booth the one year was themed around Super Mario Maker, so
for good reason it turned out because that did just fine.
I mean,
even
it
for a
sold
Wii game.
2 million or 3
for a
million.
Wii game. It did pretty well.
For Wii U, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Wii U game, yeah.
Okay, now we're starting to get into some of the more obscure, maybe sketchy stuff that may or may not be there. Next up, Bayonetta 3. So that game appears to be in some sort of development hell. It was just pushed back. Platinum saying it wasn't happy with what was happening with it so far.
It's Bayonetta.
I know.
Just make a bunch of new levels and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean they already made Bayonetta 2 for Nintendo specifically. I'm shocked that they're having problems developing this game, but it was announced last year at E3. Is that right? Was that when it was first announced? I think it is.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. Was it? Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't either. But it was announced not that long ago, so it's not like it's been a game that was like announced before the Switch came out, and we've been waiting all this time for it. Like, it's a relatively recent announcement. So a delay isn't that big of a deal, provided it doesn't stretch past next year. Do you think we'll see anything new from that? A trailer, maybe?
Probably not.
I mean, the trailer we just showed is all they've put out for it so far. Right. So I think we'll see something.
I think they're running dormant. I think they got nothing right now.
I would be surprised if we don't get a trailer.
I wouldn't. Not after what they just said.
I don't think we're going to see it played on the Treehouse streams or anything, but...
No, but I think we won't hear anything about Bayonetta.
Wow.
I think something's wrong. I can't imagine what it would be.
Yeah, I can't either.
Because it's like the same game Platinum's made like 14 times.
Maybe that's what the problem is. They don't want to make the same game again. And I get it because...
And Nintendo often demands you not make the same game again, too. So it could just be... They're looking for a way to make it fresh.
And I'll say this. By the end of Bayonetta 2, I was pretty much done with Bayonetta.
True. Like,
that camp stuff works for a while, but...
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing to play in front of people.
It is, yeah. And maybe that's what they're working on.
Maybe. We'll see. I think this one's going to end up being like a late next year thing.
Bayonetta 2 didn't exactly set the sales charts on fire either, so...
No, but it feels like they really want this to catch on somehow. Like, it's amazing to me how, we'll be up to 3 games on this. When did the first one come out? Like, almost 10 years ago now?
Yeah, that's about right.
Like... They're going to make fetch happen if it kills them on this game, and I don't blame them because it's got some verve and it's interesting. There's not much else like it unless you're talking about like Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah.
Certainly, there's nothing else like it on the Switch.
Nope.
So it fills a gap, which is a good idea. I don't know. Like, we'll see.
Next
or
up,
we won't see.
Next up, Town. That's the RPG from Game Freak, the creators of Pokemon.
The Pokemon guys. Who I still believe this game was kind of a prototype for what they wanted to do with the world in Sword and Shield.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it looks like Pokemon without having to pay for the license. Yeah.
Well, they own it, so I don't think...
Yeah.
They don't have to pay for that. That's not a license.
No, I guess you're right. They do own it. Well, Pokemon Company owns it.
Yeah, but that's a Game Freak. Like, that's them.
Are they? Is that the same company?
It's the same company, yeah.
Really? I wasn't aware of that.
They changed the name a while ago, if I remember right.
Interesting. I thought they were separate entities for some reason.
They might be separate, like, business entities, but they are the same thing, as I understand it.
So they wouldn't have to pay the other one to license it?
Game Freak created Pokemon. They don't have to pay to use it.
Yeah. Well, then maybe they're just trying to leverage their name to start another IP.
I mean, diversifying wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Yeah, for sure.
And I still feel like this game looks like a tech demo to me that just sort of happened to have something to it that was like, hey, this is fun enough to put out as a game. Because a lot of Nintendo games have started that way.
Yeah, it's true. Let's get to games before we get to hardware, actually. Mm-hmm. Metroid Prime 4. Reverted back to retro like 5 months ago. Any chance? What's your percentage chance of us seeing anything from Metroid Prime 4?
I think that's in the 5% range, too. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to show something just to kind of reassure people, so I wouldn't rule it out completely, but considering the timing, it feels like they're probably not far enough along with anything to really do anything more than maybe show a new logo.
I don't think there's any way they're showing anything. Retro's only been working. Look, they completely restarted the project 5 months ago. Like maybe the proof of concept stuff that Retro made.
Yeah, the other option is that like Retro already sort of had been working on it quietly, being like, ready to go. Like
well, they built a proof of concept for Nintendo to prove to Nintendo that it should give it back.
Give it to me, give it to us. So like, it's not impossible, and it would be
maybe higher than 5. Let's give it 8% chance.
Yeah, in terms of like reassuring the fan base, it would be wise to show something.
Yeah,
but I don't know. We're already looking at a pretty packed lineup. They can get away with not showing that because it's not this year and it's not something they really need to worry about yet.
Yeah.
And chances are they can reassure us next E3 Direct.
Yep.
Frankly, because it's clearly not coming out before then.
Yep. And then lastly, as far as software is concerned, Daemon Cross Machina. Yeah. Why isn't that game out?
Where'd that game go?
They put a demo out like 8 months ago.
Well, to be fair, the demo was a framey disaster.
It was a piece of crap.
I liked what it was because I like mech kind of Armored Core style stuff. I enjoyed it, but the performance was not acceptable.
Yeah, I didn't like the demo at all. Actually,
so my guess would be that they are trying.
I do like robots, but I just thought the game was just poor.
I think they're trying to make this thing run better.
That's possible.
Because it wasn't supposed to be out in the spring or something.
Yeah, I mean it's been floating around for a couple years now.
Yeah, I liked it conceptually. I thought it'd be nice if it was running on better hardware.
Yeah.
Hell, maybe they're pushing it back until
someday it will be.
Yeah, maybe they're pushing it back until the Switch Pro or whatever shows up next year.
Yeah, or maybe they're taking the time to make it good. I didn't like that demo at all. It was like torture playing it for me, but to each their own.
I think it was fine. I just want it to run smoothly.
Yeah, that was honestly the least of my concerns. But you're right, it did run crappy. And now let's talk hardware. So Nintendo has already said it's not showing any new hardware at E3. Do you believe it?
Maybe. I don't know.
I feel like Nintendo said this before, and it was a lie.
I don't remember what the last like revision of things were.
Yeah.
I guess the 2DS
revamp. Yeah, I guess it would be that weird like play tablet version.
Well, I meant the second 2DS, which is more like the clamshell thing.
Right. Yeah.
Which I don't know. Maybe not.
Pachter still thinks that, and when we were recording that episode, I even told him, I said, Nintendo already said that they're not, and he's like, I don't care. He's like, they're going to show the cheaper handheld only version of it. So he's convinced. I'm not.
Does Nintendo lie about stuff like that early?
I feel like it has in the past. I don't know where that's coming from. I can't give you a specific, but I feel like I have been lied to by Nintendo before.
No, I think they're so comfortable showing like major things through their independent directs that it wouldn't surprise me if they just showed it like later in the summer or something.
Because they have announced hardware on directs several times.
Yeah,
like handheld revisions.
Yeah, and it might even be better to announce like what is effectively a minor hardware revision at a time that is where everything's focused on your direct and not like at everyone in the industry. So they might not find it's a big enough thing to warrant putting in this. Which I kind of see their point on that if that's what they're thinking.
Well, this segues nicely into what we're going to discuss next, which is the 3DS. Is it over?
Oh yeah.
Persona Q2 came out today. Mm-hmm. And that's really the last high-profile 3DS game.
Yeah, I think they've more or less said that. Like it's done.
That's it.
They're a one-system company now.
So if that's the case, then I don't know. The timing is perfect to show the handheld-only version of Switch.
Well, I mean, it's not like there's a hard out for the 3DS like next week. Like they can show the new Switch whenever they want. So it's not. The ball's in their court in every imaginable respect. They can do whatever the hell they want.
Pretty much. That's why the lower third says cruise control.
Yeah.
I mean, they have just got it on autopilot right now. They can just print money.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where they're at, which is great. It's good to see, as someone who's followed this company for decades and decades, it's good to see Nintendo in the spot it's in right now. So you don't expect any announcements for the 3DS at E3?
I wouldn't. I would be surprised.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't announce Super Mario Maker 2 for the 3DS, to be honest. I mean, the first one was on 3DS.
Who knows what they're doing with this thing and whether it could run smoothly.
It's possible.
Whether you can hold all those tile sets and I don't know.
It may. I mean,
it's real old hardware at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. At this point, it's been real old hardware for like 3 years now. Again, it's admirable what Nintendo did in a time period where nobody could be successful with handhelds. What it did with the 3DS is yet another commendable achievement.
Well, and also part of the reason no one can be successful with handhelds is because Nintendo has owned that market with an iron fist for 25 years or more. So, they taught everyone to stop messing with them in that space, and now they sort of own it sideways thanks to the Switch. So,
what about maybe cutting the price of the 3DS to like $100?
I don't know if you can do that considering the capacitive touchscreen. Like those things cost what they cost to make. Like that was a problem with the Wii U as well. Like the touchscreen on that controller cost what it cost, and there was a point at which it just didn't get any cheaper, and that's one reason you never saw super cheap Wii U's, and why the Wii U was not blown out at clearance. Nintendo bought them all back from the retailers.
Right.
Although people have started to see, I saw somebody like picked up like a Wii U. Cheap on Twitter. I saw they picked it up for like €40 or something. It was a brand new one.
Wow.
At like some like kind of big box, like not big box, but like kind of a Costco-ish place.
Yeah.
Which is a great. I mean, I think if you like the Wii U and you don't believe that some of the key games on it are ever coming to Switch, like Xenoblade Chronicles X or Tokyo Mirage Sessions or things like that, maybe Skyward Sword because of the motion control, you might consider getting a spare Wii U because that gamepad, if it breaks at some point in the future, is going to be hard to replace.
Yeah, they're probably not fixing it. So you don't think that they can sell a 3DS for $100 at this point?
I don't know. I don't know about the manufacturing costs or if they even want to waste time doing. I mean, that would be something like blowing out the remaining stock, and that's not really what Nintendo does most of the time. So that'd be up to the retailers probably.
What if they made a new version that didn't have a touchscreen?
Well, then way too much stuff wouldn't work on it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they've gotten away from that a good bit over the last couple of years, though.
Yeah, you have to redesign the OS. That wouldn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, you can always use the D-pad and buttons to navigate.
Yeah, but you still have to redesign it to deal with that. There's some stuff on the 3DS OS that you can only do with the touchscreen.
Yeah. It just seems weird for them to just let it die. There's so many other things they can do to squeeze more money out of it.
Well, the Switch covers both of those things, and it seems like they'd rather put all their eggs in that basket and have a packed release schedule for the one system, which, frankly, I can't blame them for.
It's just weird to think that it's the end of the road because there's still so much opportunity to generate revenue from it. Like, it's not Nintendo's style, really, to just bail.
I don't know if there is. Like, it kind of did its thing. It ran its course. People don't talk about it anymore. Part of that's because it doesn't have a lot coming out.
Yeah.
But, like, their big success right now is the Switch, and it's doing better than the 3DS did. So, focus on that. Like,
is it doing better than the 3DS?
I think so. The 3DS was fine, but it certainly wasn't a success on the level of its predecessor.
Oh, no. The 3DS did terrible compared to the DS and the GBA, but you got to realize those platforms are like record-setting platforms.
Right. But I think
3DS still did very well.
Unless I am very much mistaken, the Switch is selling at a much better clip than the 3DS was at the same time in its life.
Yeah, I mean, I would believe that, absolutely.
So, the 3DS did its job. Like, it's time to let the old soldier retire.
This is another case where I wish we had taps on the TriCaster to play for the 3DS.
I still have my launch. It's not launch 3DS because I've transferred it. But I still have my ambassador games.
Me too.
From where they gave you a bunch of games for buying it at launch as an apology.
Yeah. I have that little ribbon on my home screen too that they gave you.
I mean, having Metroid Fusion isn't a bad apology.
Yeah.
But,
3DS was great. They did I thought Nintendo did a great job with it. So. Bon voyage, 3DS.
Are we not going to talk about Fire Emblem?
Yeah, I mean,
That's got to be in there, right? Because that's a summer release.
Yeah, that's coming up in like a month or two, I think.
July or August.
It's coming up soon. So there's a new Fire Emblem coming. Nintendo has a really good E3 this year.
They got a packed schedule for once.
Yeah, so. I mean it's like a big game. Like it seems like there's going to be a big game release every month for the next year.
I mean nothing is like crazy as Mario and Zelda all at once, but like
it's more of the
at the very least you'll be able to find one or two things you like, no matter who you are. I would think.
Yeah.
Like I don't care about Animal Crossing, but I want Fire Emblem and I want Pokemon.
I haven't seen a Nintendo release schedule like this since. What?
Yeah.
Jeez, like.
Well,
the SNES.
Well, and part of that is because they've pulled stuff off the 3DS. I mean, that Pokemon game should be a 3DS game if they were still going for the 3DS, but they've consolidated, and I think that's wise.
It is wise, yeah. So there you go.
Especially going forward, you got to keep that momentum when the other two guys launch their new systems.
Yeah.
You're going to be leaning entirely on your software library, which luckily for Nintendo is their strength.
Yep.
And I think you're just going to see that continue moving on for the next 18 months, frankly.
Yep. So there it is. That is the Nintendo preview for E3 2019. It is undoubtedly going to have a big show. Do you think they'll surprise us with anything? First-party game that we don't know about?
I don't know. I mean, there's been persistent talk of like an Odyssey 2 surprise announcement. Which I think
or a new Zelda.
Zelda. I mean, it's about time maybe for like a Zelda sort of Majora's Mask style, like reuse the assets from Breath of the Wild to make a new game sort of thing. But it's also like the turnaround on an Odyssey 2 for like this year or early next year would kind of fit how fast they made Galaxy 2.
Yeah, it's true.
And Galaxy 2 was basically made up of levels they cut from Galaxy 1, and you have to assume that there's probably a similar thing happening with Odyssey 2. They could do it. It could happen.
It's possible.
I'm not going to say it's likely.
I think it's more likely that we see something for Zelda, though.
Maybe. I think you got Link's Awakening, and they can run silent on that. I mean, Mario Maker 2 isn't quite the same thing. If we're going to see if we're going to get surprised by a Mario or a Zelda, I would guess it would be Mario. I would guess it would be Odyssey 2. I think Odyssey 2 is a simpler beast.
I agree. I think it's easier to make, but you also had an extra year's time, mostly, for the Zelda team.
You had an extra 6 months, and then they had to make DLC. Odyssey has had no DLC. Note that.
It was like 8 months. From March to December.
Was it December?
I think so.
That was like October.
I thought Odyssey was December.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was like 6 and then the Zelda team made DLC.
Well,
Odyssey has had no DLC, which I think is weird.
It is weird. The other thing that makes me believe that is Enuma has like basically said, yeah, we're like chugging on Zelda.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
we haven't heard anything about Mario, the 3D Mario. So. But that team does, because the 3D Mario team doesn't really have a figurehead the way Zelda does,
Right.
it does run more silently than
Oh, yeah.
Zelda does. So that might be part of it too.
Yeah, if I had to bet on one, I would say like, oh, Odyssey 2 is coming, or Odyssey Extra, or whatever. You know, something, maybe not even a full-fledged sequel, but just like, here's a bunch more levels.
Yeah. And that's the thing about Mario. Like, you can just snap the levels on
Right.
and it doesn't really matter.
As opposed to Zelda, where you have to build a world.
Right. And a plot and all that
and
stuff.
dungeons. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's like almost like...
Well, hopefully
yeah,
dungeons.
Well, yeah. I mean, that would be the like, thing. Is like, you figured out how to make an overworld, like open overworld that feels like Zelda. Now you just got to put some dungeons
Put some dungeons in there. Yeah, and I would have liked Breath of the Wild a lot more if it had traditional Zelda dungeons in it. So we'll see. But there you go. That's Nintendo's preview for E3 2019. I think no matter what, it is going to have an amazing show. Somewhere in there, it has a couple Game of the Show candidates, I have a feeling.
Yeah. If only for lack of competition.
Right. All right, next.
Because what do you count at the show at this point?
Yeah.
Microsoft's not at the show.
Yeah.
Activision's not at the show. EA's not at the
No,
show.
it's funky.
Sony's not at the
Yeah,
show.
it's really funky.
Like, Microsoft doesn't even have a mixer booth.
Yeah. It is weird when you
They're
start
just
talking about...
they're just coincidentally across the street the same week.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's weird to like give something best of E3 when the company technically wasn't at E3. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, just thinking aloud here, like we'll probably have to let those games in.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you're really thinking about E3 as like this particular week.
Yeah,
You know,
it's like
just
if your stuff happens
this week of activity.
Yeah.
Is we just have a name for it now.
No, it's like when we're curating, like I said, we've already been tagging stuff to E3. So much so that we already have like 80 pieces of content on our E3 page and it hasn't even started yet. You're right. It's about the time period. It's not really...
not about the event anymore.
Yeah, it really isn't. It's kind of weird.
At a certain point, you could end up with all the different companies just having their own events in downtown LA with no E3.
Yeah.
But we'd still call it
We
E3.
would probably still call it E3. Much to the ESA's dismay.
The E3 would just be an esports booth in Sega.
The ESA would not be happy about that. Trust me. So yeah, there's the Nintendo. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about Death Stranding. Sony isn't going to E3, but it kind of is, because like we were talking about it.
It certainly seems like it could have.
I mean, the Death Stranding trailer is called the E3 2019 release date trailer. That's the way it's titled on the official trailers on YouTube. So they are kind of having their cake and eating it too with E3. It's discouraging if you're someone who enjoys E3 and likes the whole event and the kind of the pomp and circumstance that goes with it, and you don't want to see that go away. Seeing Death Stranding explode on social media just from putting out a trailer is not encouraging.
One of the big three had to be the first to take the step to see, like, hey, do we even need this?
Yeah.
And Sony has, with their crazy lineup of, basically their three
or triple threat
juggernauts.
Yeah.
Particularly this one, I think, because you're going to get internet interest. I mean, this is not going to sell like Last of Us 2 is going to sell. It's going to sell like probably like Detroit Become Human levels.
I would say closer to Detroit Become Human levels, but it's going to sell like double what Detroit Become Human did.
It's going to sell 10 million?
Like 8.
I think that's way more than it depends. I mean, if it's like some kind of breakout like phenomenon, maybe. But
I mean, I don't know if you read like the press reports after this trailer came out, but people are like falling all over themselves over the game.
Yeah, but that's the core gaming internet people. Like, I'm talking about the people that make these things 10 million, 20 million sellers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about journalists. I'm not talking about just fans.
Who cares?
It makes a difference.
It can. But I haven't seen a lot of bad reviews tank anything in the game space recently, sales-wise. Certainly didn't stop Days Gone.
Yeah. Well, we don't really know yet with Days Gone.
Days Gone did not do God of War money, but it did fine. I mean, I would guess this would do something similar, probably. I would not have guessed Days Gone would have done as well as it did.
You got to remember, this has Norman Reedus in it. You don't think he's going to be all over the marketing, you're crazy.
Sure, but...
That instantly creates that connection for people. People who don't play games are like, oh my god, Norman Reedus is the star of this whole game.
I think you might be overestimating the pull of Norman Reedus.
I don't know. He's a pretty big deal.
Sam's. I gotta laugh at a Sam. That's all I ever want.
Victory.
I mean, Mads Mikkelsen is more of a draw to me.
No way.
Yes.
To you, he is. To the average person, no freaking way.
Off of like Hannibal in terms of like.
Yeah, but Hannibal is an amazing show. Amazing. I love that show, but it pales in comparison to The Walking Dead as far as popularity and pop culture.
Popularity, sure, but like. I don't know how much crossover there is between.
Trust me, Norman Reedus has way more fans. Way more.
That's mysterious to me.
Women love him, man. Love him.
All right, well, I don't know if this trailer is going to sell this game to a lot of women.
What do you mean, the bridge baby? You don't think that'll be attractive to females?
I think. Well, Kojima still doesn't know what to do with female characters because apparently they're just here to be threatened to be exposition dumps.
Yeah.
Which. Conveniently, in Metal Gear Solid 4, he combined both of those things into Naomi, so it was very efficient.
Someone was complaining about the lack of diversity in the cast in this game on SIFTD.
It is pretty pale.
To which I basically just replied, Kojima's Asian.
Yeah, well, so?
He's a person of color, so to accuse him of like intentionally whitewashing the...
Most of the accusations of things like that are not about intentional. It's more about you didn't even think of it.
Which is possible.
Which is probably what's happening.
I don't know, though. Kojima thinks about everything, probably too much.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I think that's part of his problem.
He should maybe think about quality dialogue once in a while.
Yeah, well, to him it is quality dialogue.
Well, I did notice in this trailer that the dialogue does feel a little more like something a human being would actually say, but that's probably because he's gotten real actors involved. And generally, a real actor is going to like read a terrible Kojima line and be like, "What if I say it like this?"
Yeah.
And make it better. If you'd like an example of when that doesn't happen, go watch Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Matt was not impressed with that film.
Not thrilled by that one. Oof.
He unloaded.
Oof.
The big deal about this trailer, though, is, and it's not even really the trailer. The trailer gives you some hints, but when the trailer went up, a blog post also went up on all the official channels that finally explains what is going on with this game and how it plays.
Sort of.
No, it really does. Like, I don't...
I still don't really understand what I'm doing moment to moment, but at least I understand sort of the broad loop. You know, like the whole not dying thing, like kind of I understand the concept of sort of what he's after and what the connection thing means, more or less. The weird double entendre on Strand and Death Stranding. Also the fact that the American guy who delivers things from town to town to establish new connections between them is named Sam Porter Bridge, which might be the least subtle naming convention since, I don't know, whatever the last Dan Brown novel was. Wow. Also, there's a guy in this game named Die Hardman. I don't get it.
I kind of like how he names his characters stupid things. I mean, that's not just in this game. He's done that all along.
It's constant, but like at a certain point, it's Die Hardman.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's funny.
Because clearly you're naming it after the movie.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
It would.
I think it transcends stupidity to be cute.
Not when this shit plays itself so damn straight and serious.
No, it does. Absolutely.
I mean, there's some elements of every Kojima game that is just sort of there for whimsy's sake, but like, the marketing doesn't pull that. I mean, to watch this we desperately want to be like a major blockbuster film thing, and then have like the Die Hardman title. I'm like, oh please, come on.
So
don't get me wrong, it's better than David Cage, but.
So I actually want to share some of the information that was shared on the blogs, because I feel like a lot of people only watched this trailer and didn't get the information. So basically the plot of the game, and that is one thing I think we kind of figured out from the trailers.
Her name is Fragile.
Yeah.
Her name is Fragile.
Well, think about, he's always named girl characters crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, after the collapse of civilization, Sam Bridges, your favorite, Norman Reedus, has to save everyone from the brink of extinction. The Death Stranding refers to supernatural events that occur after a series of mysterious explosions. These areas of impact are plagued with otherworldly creatures that threaten to kill all life. As Sam Bridges, you'll brave that wasteland to try and save everyone. So you're trying to save humanity, basically, from...
Yeah, although it certainly seems like he has to be talked into that early on.
Yeah.
Oh, a reluctant hero. How original.
And then here we start to talk a little bit more about
I also feel like
how the game plays.
If this had been made as a movie like 20 years ago, Norman Reedus' part would have been played by Kevin Costner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
It feels like a Kevin Costner movie.
It's the follow-up to Waterworld.
Yeah, it's like a Waterworld. I mean, the postman. Like you say the mailman, the postman.
Right.
Is what it keeps reminding me of.
Yeah. So what you're actually doing while you're playing, what the objective is...
There's a little Apocalypse Now action.
Yeah.
This is a cool shot. This
is a cool shot.
This is a neat bit here.
Yeah.
I will give it credit for this in the sense that like this trailer and sort of the description make it clear that they are going. There's a lot more interesting elements in terms of like the time travel stuff and sort of the thing. They're going full maximum weird. Although part of me, because of some of especially the imagery here, I wonder if a lot of this was sort of his plans for Metal Gear Solid 5 that had to get scrapped. Because there's such similar imagery in some of the scenes in Metal Gear Solid 5 where you're like, what the hell is that? Like, what's going on? And then they never explain it. And I feel like maybe like that got kind of aborted halfway through because Konami shut all that stuff down.
It's possible.
And then like he took a bunch of those ideas and turned it into this, which like, I mean, that's a very creative, it's a very creative person thing to do.
Yeah.
So if that's what he did, like, I applaud that because I do always like it when someone is like, I'm going to tell this story whether you like it or not. Like, I do appreciate that.
As far as the gameplay is concerned and what you're doing, the gameplay loop and the minute-to-minute stuff, the objective is to protect your supplies from wild bandits and stay safe from the terrifying beach things. The beach things are those crazy creatures that live in, like, the black, inky murk or whatever. Unpassable obstacles block your path and force you to find different routes. So when you saw earlier in this trailer the ladder stuff, so you have a ladder and a rope, basically, and then stakes for the rope. And you need to use those tools to get around the environments. But the twist to it all is that there's these creatures that you can't really see, but they're still there. And so you need to stealth your way using the tools that you're given around the creatures, essentially. And then this is where, there's the ladder stuff. And this is where the connectivity stuff comes into play as well. So there is asynchronous online gameplay where you can send supplies to other players. You share a safe house with other players who are connected online. And you literally can walk in the footsteps of fellow couriers to reunite civilization. And what I think that is, there's a clip in this trailer that shows footprints on the ground, like yellow-orange footprints. I think what that is that it's kind of like, I think Dark Souls did something similar to this, where you'll be able to follow someone else's footsteps through the treacherous areas where the bad guys are that you can't see. So instead of having to use all the tools, I think somehow with the connectivity of the game, you're going to be able to use other people's paths to help you figure out what the safe path is through certain areas. That's my guess anyway.
I would also think that because they keep talking about reconnecting all those cities or all the settlements, like I would guess that the more the community travels the routes, maybe like I think like if you're not just to use the footprints to find the path through the monsters, but if you continually travel the same path as other players, you strengthen that trade route for everybody.
Interesting.
Like that would be a thing that what he keeps talking about strands and connecting and sort of reestablishing that. Like I feel like as a player base, you're going to be encouraged to sort of like wear down, almost like wearing out a path in the in a field. Like the more you walk it, the more it becomes visible
and easier
and
to
like
walk.
Eventually, you kind of establish that trade route as a millions of people community. Like I could see that as being sort of part of the mingle player aspect of this.
Yep. And the safe house houses your vehicles, so you have like your whole livery of vehicles back at the base. You can change clothes. Like there's one scene they showed in one of the trailers where he's walking around naked in the safe house. So that could get interesting. Death in this game is crazy. You kind of go to like a purgatory. So if you remember one of the very first trailers, remember when they were like, this is the first time we're showing gameplay, and it was just him falling through the water? That's what happens after you die. You go to that medium place. And apparently there is actual gameplay in that purgatory, but you have to be careful of whether you kill enemies or not, because they say that it says killing your foe is almost never the solution, and every death carries a consequence. So when you're in that nether region, it sounds like you have to be careful about what you're doing, and it sounds like it's actually a big part of the game instead of just some goofy mini game you play to get back to the real thing. And that's pretty much it. That's what I've gleaned out of watching this trailer. And so there's the footsteps I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, that also.
But this is where you died actually here. This is where
that
you're
also
getting
might be
like
the creatures seem to walk on their hands as well. So that might just be a indication of the trail the monsters you're trying to avoid have taken.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're probably not going to understand until, or maybe won't ever understand. But at least gameplay mechanics-wise, won't understand until there's a little more raw stuff out there. The ending up in World War I is interesting.
Yeah, or it's Vietnam. Some of the soldiers are Vietnam.
Some of them are, but those tanks are World War I.
Yeah, it's really freaking weird.
And you can see there's people disappearing and reappearing the whole time. So.
Yeah. The exact verbiage that this is directly from Kojima and Sony was asynchronous online gameplay where you can send supplies, share safe houses, and walk in the footsteps of fellow couriers to reunite civilization.
Yeah, that's the line that makes me think that walking in their footsteps is sort of a key element of keeping those connections strong.
Yeah.
And that probably the more we do that, the more benefits we will get, communally from the different settlements.
And I kind of got that idea from some of the talks he's given before as well, because he did that whole diagram thing, and he's talked about how he wants people are isolated now, and he wants people to be together instead of apart, and so
people have been complaining about that since magazines came out.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's
absolutely true.
You can find articles around the turn of the 20th century where people are editorials where people are complaining about how everyone just walks around reading magazines now and no one talks to each other. It's just like, wait for it, bro.
How do you feel about the limited combat that they show? I mean, it looks like combat is going to be kind of a last resort thing in this game, but how do you think that looks?
I mean,
I thought it looked bad.
I mean, Kojima always seems to want combat to be a last resort.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it's a stealth game pretty much.
The shooting looks fine. The stuff where he's dodging around with the crate looked real rough.
It looks so dumb. It's just absurd. It's like you got these 3 guys chasing you with cattle prods. You're carrying 500 pounds of crap, trying to run away. It's just, I don't know. It seems weird.
It also just,
when I first saw it, I was like, really? You're going to have to run away from people with those big bags on your back?
Well, I also get the impression that you probably, if you play your cards right, they won't see you and you won't have to fight them.
Right.
I mean, it feels like a fail state to me.
Well, those aren't really the bad guys that are in that scene. Those are other humans.
Well, they're not the monsters, but they're definitely the bad guys in the sense that they are they're pirates or whatever.
Yeah, bandits. Yeah, they basically are trying to take your cargo.
Trying to take your box.
Yeah, because
you got to get that box of civilization
to
establish the strands of connection, man.
We didn't even talk about the bridge babies, really. Mm-hmm.
The BBs.
Yeah, the BBs. It's for bridge baby, and those are the babies that live in the container and are somehow hooked into the user. Apparently, there's only 2 of them in the world.
And Norman Reedus has one of them.
He has one, and then they show another one. The other one.
It looks like Mads Mikkelsen has the other one.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Mads Mikkelsen is the guy who created them. He was the architect of them, and somehow the first one he created got away.
People who create things of great importance and significance in Kojima games do tend to be bad guys.
Yep.
Unless they're Otacon.
You're right. Yeah.
But even then, Otacon's father was not flawless.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the big news, it's coming November 8th, 2019.
Right.
I mean,
who would have thought that of those the big 3, this was the first one that would come out?
The developer who is notorious for delaying over and over.
Feels like maybe, I don't know if Sony cracked the whip or if he learned his lesson.
Yeah.
Or maybe a bit of both.
He learned a pretty hard lesson because he talked about this game is influenced a lot by the Konami split. He said that a lot of the themes in this game are how he was feeling when everything started to fall apart with Konami. There's a little bit of his personal experiences built into this game for sure. Are you more excited or less excited for this after this information burst?
I don't know if excited's the word, but I'm more interested.
For most people, it seems their interest has just went over the moon. This trailer on Sifted, the most comments for anything on Sifted other than like our original content in like 2 years. There's like 60 comments on this trailer.
Well, because it's confusing and weird. There's something to discuss.
We've curated 5 trailers for this. None of them generated that kind of discussion.
Well, I think because you finally see sort of an element of like, what is it? Yeah. Like there's some kind of structure to it. There's some, you can at least get an idea of vaguely what you're going to be doing. Even here's him wandering around with a corpse strapped to his back. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's certainly going to be talked about, regardless of whether it's good, bad, or anything in between.
Yeah. I'm basically the same. I've been excited for this game all along. I knew it was going to be weird. I knew it was going to be different, and it is. And I think that's what has me most excited is it's different. It's not just another rote action RPG that's either fantasy or sci-fi. It's just there's nothing like it. And it could end up becoming being a total piece of crap that I hate playing, and that has happened for me with his games before. So that's possible, but there's just nothing else on the market like it, and I think the industry needs more of this stuff because not enough publishers are willing to take risks on games like this. And I will say that if you're going to place a bet on one developer to do something like this, it is Kojima. So it's not like Sony is being extraordinarily brave in greenlighting this game, but it is being brave. And, hopefully it turns out good and they're rewarded for the risk. No matter what, I'm really excited to check it out and play it.
I'm just hoping that the narrative is not insultingly stupid.
That has been a catch point for me with all his games.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people love him for that, but it's not good. That's the thing. It's not good.
No, we are talking about someone who was like his great aspiration in terms of filmmaking has been John Carpenter.
Right.
While I'm not going to say John Carpenter's bad, he's of a certain quality level.
Well, I'm also going to say that I just watched the most recent Halloween, and I was completely flabbergasted to go and look at the reviews for that movie and see how high they were.
Which was the most recent one?
Yeah, the one with Jamie Lee Curtis, like the reboot or whatever.
Yeah,
it's not really a reboot, though, because they get, like...
It's kind of a sequel to the first one, or the first two.
Kind of. Well, no, he's been in an insane asylum for, like, 20 years or whatever.
Well, yeah, because they skip all... I think they skip all but Halloween 1 and 2.
They kind of act like some of the other stuff didn't happen. Basically.
Yeah, but they also sort of vaguely... Yeah, they do vaguely hint at a couple of
It's
things.
bad. It is a bad movie. And, like,
It's never been wise to bring Jamie Lee Curtis back in that series. They always screw it up.
Like, the score on Rotten Tomatoes from critics was, like, 80.
That's odd.
And then the user score was still too high, but it was lower than the critic score, which I never see on there, ever, unless it's like a protest thing. It's bad. I'm glad I waited to watch it free, quote unquote, on HBO.
I don't know. Like I just hope that now that he's really involving, high quality Hollywood talent. Del Toro is not great about script, so it's not like I think that's going to help all that much. But like, I've never had a problem with his concepts, but like the execution on a moment-to-moment dialogue sense and sort of character work has always been really weak.
Yeah.
Especially outside of like whatever the 2 or 3 main characters of something are, and there's always sort of that feeling of like, you're not making anime, like. Don't make it like anime, and it just keeps being like anime.
It's hard to blame him though, because he grew up with that.
But
if it were us, we'd probably be doing the same thing.
Sure, but it's just weird things usually there's body language.
I think everyone knows what you mean when you say that.
And I'm hoping that now you've got Hollywood actors in there, and they're going to sort of help smooth that over. Sort of in the same way that as higher profile talent has gotten involved in Quantic Dream games, the kind of the weird Frenchness of them has diminished.
Slowly gone away. Yeah.
So we'll see. But even then, you can see in some of the clips where like Kojima's talking about the game to Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus doesn't know what the hell he's saying.
He's like, I just read the lines.
He's as lost as the rest of us. Like he's just
He's like, they hand me a script and I read it.
They say what it says.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, the one thing I can say about it is that it ain't gonna be boring.
No.
I mean, maybe it will be boring to play, but
Right.
like, you're not, at least you look at this and you're not like, well, I've seen this before.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's increasingly rare to, especially big budget games like this. Like, it just doesn't happen. So thank you, Sony.
Well, we'll see
Thank
if it
you,
happens
Kojima.
again.
Right.
But Sony kind of giving him free reign as long as he got it out in a reasonable amount of time seems to be,
Actually, Sam, will you go back just a few seconds to where that like wheel opens up on the screen? There's some stuff hidden in there. Yeah, stop when it has like all the icons up. Yeah, there's some weird stuff in there. Like one of them has like a baby peeing. Yeah, like it's cool that there's like these little shots in this trailer that if you want to stop them and kind of dig in.
You got to drain the BB once in a while?
I guess so. You got to drain the BB. But anyway, I'm excited for this game. Just as excited as I was. I've been hyped for it all along. And we don't have to wait long. I mean, holy crap, it's like a few months away and we're going to be playing this thing. It's going to be out. So I'm pretty excited about it. Let's move on. So next, we're going to talk about Activision Blizzard as a publisher preview for E3. But as I started like really digging into it, I realized that there's only one game.
Yeah, they don't really make stuff anymore.
No. There's one game, and that game was just blown out this week, and it is Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I know some of you are sitting there right now, you're like, wait a minute, am I in a time warp watching Invisible Walls from like 2008? No, the new Call of Duty is called Call of Duty Modern Warfare. People probably don't even realize the first one was actually called Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and they did drop the 4 for like the remaster, so it's a little funky, but this does not have the 4, it's just Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
I should also note that when I reviewed that game, they started up the the exe on the dev kit to like let me play it, and the exe was called COD3.exe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, clearly, Infinity Ward did not accept the numbering of the Treyarch game at the time.
Definitely. Yeah,
or
like,
they just started development on it before that was decided, which is more likely.
Probably.
But
you're probably wondering why we're showing you no Russian right now. And the reason we're showing you this is because basically what's been shared and discovered over the last week is that Modern Warfare is basically an entire game of no Russian. And for those of you who are saying, what the hell is no Russian? No Russian is the scene you're seeing right now. It was in Modern Warfare 2. And basically, you're not forced to massacre people in an airport. You can not shoot. Eventually, you do have to shoot one person in the scene.
You have to shoot the armed security that comes to fight you.
Yeah, but you don't have to kill the innocent people who are like crawling across the floor. But you still have to witness.
But you
you
are free to.
You are, and you can shoot them. And no matter what, you have to watch the people who are with you mow down innocent people. And according to Infinity Ward,
except that guy.
you can't kill that guy. Well, he's already dead apparently. But yeah, you can see you can pretty much shoot anyone. And obviously this scene disturbed a lot of people. And
well, yeah, it gave you the option when you started the game to skip it.
It did, although it didn't tell you what you were skipping.
Yeah.
It just says if you are squeamish, choose yes. So I think most people selected no, and were like, no, what do you mean? And then they get here and they understand, oh, that's what you were talking about. This generated a ton of negative publicity when it came out. How did you feel about no Russian at first, like when you first experienced it?
I have no reaction to this at all.
Really?
Like, it's a video game.
Yeah.
It's fictional. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't understand. Like, I get thematically kind of why it was like sort of like, oh, what a unusual thing, or some people like thought it was just like edgy for the sake of edgy, which I get. But like, it's fiction. I don't feel guilty about killing non-existent people. If I did, I wouldn't play shooters to begin with. I mean, I don't find it all that different.
So you have, that's interesting. So you don't have any moral quandaries when you play games?
No.
Just because just because it's fiction?
Yeah, they're not real. I am not a murderer 40,000 times over because I played Call of Duty 4.
No, I mean, nobody thinks that. But you're still put in the role of this person that you're playing as.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying you feel nothing while you play video games?
I mean, it's fun, but like I don't feel like guilty about doing things in games unless there's like a real tie to the character. Like I was angry at my shepherd in Mass Effect 3 when she shot Mordin because I like Mordin so much. But there are no characters in this level. Like it's just innocent people running around.
So Dean Takahashi, guy's been doing it as long as we have. He works at VentureBeat. He
also has a good Mass Effect story.
Yeah. Well, he also has a really good Cuphead story that.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
Yeah. Well, people still don't leave him alone about that. Oh,
actually, that's very similar.
People still don't leave him alone about that, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure.
So he wrote an article. He was at the reveal event, and he watched the actual demos that were shown by Infinity Ward. And he said that he was repulsed by the game. He said, you can do it, and it's art, and I totally get that, but that doesn't mean that you should do it. And he described a couple different scenes that they showed him. One was you break into like a jihadi safe house.
This is the new one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You break into a jihadi safe house, and there are women and children in there. And like one of the guys takes one of your team hostage, and you shoot him in the head. And when you do that, a woman runs for something, and you have to make the decision right then: do you kill her or do you let her go? And there are kids around, so you could conceivably like miss and kill innocent children. That was one of the scenes that he talked about. That he said that just turned his stomach and he couldn't deal with it. And there's one other one. I don't want to ruin the whole article for you. It's on Sifted. You can check it out. Dean worked really hard on it. He did a great job on it, so I don't want to spoil the whole thing. But there were two scenes in the article that just basically repulsed him. And the article is basically a plea, a pointless plea, to be perfectly honest, to Infinity Ward to like change the game. He basically said he doesn't want to play it that way. He doesn't like being put into positions in games that he wouldn't want to be put into in real life, which I don't agree with that either, but...
I mean, I wouldn't want to be on an intergalactic space station that's on fire either in real life.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to say. I mean, part of the point of, like, you know, fiction, not just games, but anything, to be in a place you would never be and have to deal with situations you would never have to deal with without, like, paying for the consequences of them. Like, that seems to be kind of the point in a lot of ways.
How do you feel about a game that's permeated with these type of situations? Because No Russian had a huge impact. It was really the only scene in the game that was that way. It provided a huge peak among the peaks and valleys. But
it was it was Modern Warfare 2's equivalent of the nuke in Modern Warfare 1. It was the thing that everything hinged
upon. Absolutely. But isn't it different though when the whole game is like that? Like, you don't get the valleys anymore. It's like you just turn it up to 11 and it just kind of stays there.
Well, to be honest, that's, you know, outside of the controversial material, even aside, that has been kind of my problem with Call of Duty campaigns for a while now, is like they don't know how to let it breathe.
Yeah.
Infinity Ward knew how, the old Infinity Ward, the people who became Respawn, they knew how to let that stuff breathe. They knew how to quiet it down. I mean, also...
The ghillie suit stuff.
We'll also consider... The double entendre of no Russian is not just that he says don't speak Russian so they don't know we're Russian. It's also called no Russian because you have to walk.
Yeah.
You have to walk through and see everything.
No Russian, no blushing.
No rushing.
Yeah.
No rushing through it. You have to walk and you have to see all this in front of you and you have to deal with it, and then you get shot in the head. Regardless of what you do.
And thrown into the back of a van.
But
or no, you get shot outside the van when you try
right
to
before
get
they
in.
leave, because they knew you were undercover the whole time. So yeah, like clearly Infinity Ward, you know, this was a very conscious choice at this point in the story to do this and pull that rug out from under you in a game that is, you know, the story is trying to pull the rug out in a lot. You know, you see America invaded successfully in a lot. You know, for the most part, you see some beloved characters get killed later on. You see a major betrayal later. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens in that regard. But yeah, if it's like Dean says, and it's like almost every level has some kind of like thing like that. I mean, I think what they're going for there is probably, you know, the idea that in warfare things aren't clean. You know, you're not going to bust into a room and like everyone in the room is conveniently an evil person. Like that kind of thing.
That's what they said. They're trying to portray the gray area that is modern war now, particularly when you're dealing with extremists and, people who are living in sleeper cells.
And,
it's
or,
like
or embedded in normal civilian
it's
locations.
like when they went to kill Osama bin Laden. Like his kids were there, his wives were there. Like they had to kill. Like
or in it goes back to Vietnam.
Yeah.
I was actually watching some interviews with veterans from it was the interviews were done like 90, but there was one guy who was just literally talking about how like he didn't understand when he got there that there weren't enemy combatants. They were just everywhere, and
it's just the people that live there.
And they just they eventually would start going through villages, and they just call down strikes, and they'd leave that village, and they got out of that village, but they left behind 20 or 30 new recruits for the Viet Cong because they hated them for doing what they did.
Yeah.
But there was no other. They couldn't think of any other way to fight them, and eventually, once you do that long enough, you sort of lose yourself. And at a certain point, he's just like, I was just marching along. I was going forward every day, because I knew if I lived long enough, I'd get to go home, and I didn't care what happened to anybody else. And if they're trying to simulate that, like in a narrative sense, like I get what they're after there. But I also understand what Dean is saying, where it's like, I don't want to play that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't want to play that. But when he says that, I understand.
You understand why he would have that perspective.
Like, No Russian does not have any impact on me outside of like, oh, that's a cool narrative twist to make me do that or to put that in a game, especially at the time they were doing that. Like, I see what you're saying with that. I also understand why people didn't like it. I also understand why someone wouldn't want to play it. Like, I get that. I'm not trying to argue that like everybody should toughen up and play horrible things they don't want to see.
Yeah.
Because like, look. Not everybody can handle Gaspar Noé. Okay,
Yeah.
No, I would never suggest anyone watch Irreversible.
Yeah.
But I watched it, and
it wasn't that bad.
I'm not going to say I'm glad I watched it because that's a rough watch. But like Gaspar Noé's recent movie Climax is probably his most family-friendly film.
That's funny to say.
If you know this director, that's very funny.
Yeah.
But I saw that at 10 in the morning on a Sunday, and that will color the rest of your day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let me tell
you.
But I like that. Like I like that kind of like putting yourself through something in art that is not necessarily pleasant.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like I went through No Rush and be like, woo, kill all the. But I absorb the context of it and the weight of it in terms of the narrative, and I accepted it, and I went through it, and that's kind of all my reaction to that kind of thing is. Do I want to go around like shooting children in the head intentionally in this new one? No, but it also doesn't seem like that is what they're trying to make you do.
No.
Unless there's some achievements in there that someone should really rethink.
Right, yeah.
But, like,
that would be bad.
Also, like, maybe, while I understand what Dean is saying there, like, no one seems to care about the campaign in this series anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the really interesting part, isn't it?
And like,
I mean, we didn't even bring up the fact that the campaign came back.
Right, but I didn't read his article yet, so I don't know if he makes this point. But if you know the context of how people don't seem to care about the campaign and how the campaign was even gone a year ago, I definitely can see where you'd see that in this new one and think, are you just doing this as a stunt to desperately try to get people to pay attention to this part of the game?
He actually does not bring that point up in his article.
No. Okay.
No.
Well, like, because that.
But that may be right.
To me, that would be a valid question to ask.
I mean, it might be true.
Because like there is on one hand sort of the like, yes, this is what warfare is now.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's sort of like, well, you knew this was going to get, attention, right?
Dean was saying that he thinks the game might get like an AO.
Really?
Oh, he said it's like, first of all, we also didn't mention, they have a brand new graphics engine. The first since...
Oh, it looks great.
Oh, my God. It's like photorealistic. Yeah. And he said that's part of the problem.
Captain Price is back.
Yeah.
I like
he said that's part of the problem, is that
it
is so realistic. And
I mean,
he said the blood and the gore looks extremely realistic. And he said it turned his stomach, basically. And he just didn't want to experience any more of the game.
Oh, okay. I mean, people say that about Mortal Kombat as well, and I just think that's funny. I mean, I doubt I would find this funny, but it's like, also like, I have a hard time believing anything could get an AO without hardcore sex in it.
Yeah,
like
that seems to be
AO
what
is there for. AO is there for porn.
Because it's
not
America.
there for violence. There's no limit. I mean, overseas, like
guns good, boobies bad.
Yeah, pretty much.
God bless America.
There's gonna be. I mean, clearly, I would think if it's on the level of what Dean is saying, then like you might see a different version for Australia and Europe.
They're in Germany. Absolutely.
Germany. Yeah, all the blood's gonna be green in Germany.
Oh, yeah. They're going to have problems. If it's really, I mean, I don't know why. He's not the only one who's been talking about it. He was the only one who was, like, completely repulsed by it. other journalists have kind of been like, I don't know.
Well,
to me, having a whole game full of that stuff, I don't think that's a good idea. Not because it's like, oh, you're just being sadistic with your game. I just don't think it makes for a good plot when it's just one god awful thing happening after another. Like he said, it felt like you were on a tour of travesty. Like everywhere you went, it's like now we're here, but this god awful stuff happens here too.
Yeah, I mean, well,
which is realistic. But
on the flip side, Apocalypse Now is considered a masterpiece.
Yeah. Well, it is, but
I'm not saying that these people are on the level of Coppola, but like there is merit to the idea of presenting a war story in that kind of context.
Yeah.
Do you want that in your mainstream 20 million seller fingers crossed Call of Duty game? Weird flex, but okay, Activision.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like
I do tend to agree with you, though. I think it is kind of a desperate ploy to try to make the campaign relevant again.
I mean, I'm not like definitively saying that's what I think it is. I'm just saying like that's what it makes me ask.
Kind of sounds that way.
And frankly, it looks like it worked.
Yeah. It's getting hype. Like I said, I mean, that trailer also did great views on Sifted, and Call of Duty stuff usually.
I mean, you got my attention by bringing back Captain Price.
Yeah.
And I know Infinity Ward is not the Infinity Ward of old, but
we're seeing,
I loved Infinite Warfare, and they made that, so maybe they can make something that I like here. I don't know.
It was crazy talking about what this game is, and then seeing the B-roll of Infinite Warfare playing.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wow, this is like, and it was great. Yeah. Infinite Warfare's campaign was awesome, but it's such a difference in tone.
Infinite Warfare is super clean in comparison. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what we're seeing.
I mean,
right
there's
now.
something almost sterile about the future warfare in Infinite Warfare, which maybe is part of the issue.
Yeah, it could be.
But I loved it.
I did too. I thought it was great.
Now, to be fair, I loved it largely because of the far future military setting.
Oh come on, it was Kit Harington.
How do you keep his hair poofy like that under the helmet all the time?
I don't know. He's in rehab right now. Maybe he's got time to figure it out.
But that last season would send anybody into rehab. So I don't know. So it's not like I loved Infinite Warfare largely because of the quality of the story. I loved it because I thought the setting was cool and unique. And anytime you want to show me a whole bunch of giant floating super carriers get blown up by lasers, pew pew, I'm on board.
To be fair, it was the scenarios that I liked. And it was varied and different, and there's like one minute you're walking in space, the next minute you're just boots on the ground shooting.
And going to different planets and seeing like, whoa, what is Titan look like? What is these different locations in the solar system that they've got an installation that does this and the gravity is like this and like there was a sense of discovery as you went to each new place.
And in that way, I think actually this new game might be designed kind of the same way.
Yeah, I can see that.
In a sick kind of way, though.
Yeah. Like what horrible torture will we have to deal with in this level? Kind of thing. Yeah. That's a good point.
There are some other details that we haven't brought up yet. As we said, it has a campaign. Black Ops 4 did not have a campaign. No season pass.
Bold.
All DLC free. They're taking the Respawn approach with this game.
So how are they making money?
I guess they're just counting on the campaign, getting that many more people to buy it. Cosmetics and multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, cosmetics would have to be,
no matter what, you're leaving a big chunk of money on the table.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt about it. I mean, it's just the facts. Despite the fact
it really feels like they are in search of a formula here for the last couple of years.
Here's maybe one way they did offset it. So even though there's no season pass and all the DLC is free, all that content is still coming to PS4 first. So it could be a case where they just said to Sony, look, if you want that exclusivity this time, you're going to have to pay us double what you've been paying us. I don't know.
Pay us what we would have gotten from a season pass.
It's possible. I mean, we are grasping at straws trying to figure out why they would do this. So that is one possibility.
I mean, it's Activision. It must make financial sense somewhere.
Or it wouldn't do it.
Or they wouldn't do it.
We know that.
Yeah.
Although it did publish Sekiro, which...
did all right.
I mean, it did okay, but there's no DLC or anything like that. It was okay with just publishing a single-player game. That's good.
Activision's an odd beast these days.
Yep. Another big deal. Crossplay.
Yeah.
At launch.
Across everything.
Sony already on board.
PC gamers, time for target shooting.
Yeah, how's that going to work?
It's going to work real well if you're playing on PC.
Well, yeah. You can't do that. You can't. I mean, how they do it with Fortnite? Can PC players play with console players on Fortnite?
Yeah.
Really?
And mobile. I mean, you play mobile.
Yeah, but mobile, you have a disadvantage. With PC, you have a huge advantage.
Right, but it's like clearly nobody cares, or they don't care about who's at a disadvantage or advantage.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It just seems like it's something that we worry about that they don't anymore. I don't know. It's like, I don't want to play the PC version. Like, I want to play the console version, and if I'm getting my ass handed to me in multiplayer, it's going to be a little weird. Still great. It's good for the community. It's good for players, no matter what version you buy. And look, right now, it's unclear whether there's going to be a Switch version of the game. There's been a couple clues that there might be.
That would surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, usually only Treyarch supports Nintendo platforms.
Yeah, well, they haven't so far, have they?
Well, I mean, for Wii, they put out Black Ops 2.
That was a long time ago.
It was, yeah.
I mean, you could probably put some last-gen ports on there, or like the remasters of the Modern Warfares or something.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely.
I don't see that, especially with a new engine.
Yeah.
Like, how do you cram that onto the Switch?
So we said new graphics engine. That's a huge deal for Call of Duty. It's been like 10 years in the making.
Just the fact that it doesn't look like, you don't look at it and instantly think Call of Duty. Call of Duty has a look to it.
Well, I'll tell you, when that trailer first starts, I thought it was live action footage.
Yeah, it's
because there's like the night vision on,
Yeah.
and like I was like, well, they're using live action.
The fact that the night vision isn't just a filter anymore.
Right. It's real night vision. Yeah, it actually works the way it's supposed to. And then the final piece of, at least of what they shared so far, and obviously we're going to get more at E3, no zombies.
Yeah. Were people surprised by this? Infinity Ward installments don't generally have zombies.
Yeah, I don't think they were surprised because it was Infinity Ward's game. I think that it's become such a staple of the franchise at this point that people are like, maybe every Call of Duty at this point should just have it.
I mean, if you've got the gore on the level of what Dean's talking about, maybe zombies would make a lot of sense for this.
Yeah, it might be pretty disturbing.
Maybe just save it for next year. I mean, one more thing to show.
I honestly don't care about zombies.
No, I don't bother with it.
I played Black Ops 4 at this point for probably 200 hours, and I have not touched zombies since I was evaluating it for like the eval and for the show. I just don't care.
Don't touch zombies.
And because of that was what we based our poll of the week on this week on Twitter. Sam, bring it up. So we wondered, do other people care about zombies all that much? And so the question is, will the lack of zombies mode keep you from buying Call of Duty Modern Warfare? Only 3% said that it would actually keep them from buying it. Yes, I love that mode. 22% said it depends on the other content, which at this point, it doesn't look like there is any other content aside from what was announced. So those people are probably also in that same camp. No, I love Call of Duty, 28%. And then 47%, no interest in this IP at all. How does it sell so many if these people have no interest in the IP?
Same way Wildlands did.
I guess.
It doesn't sell to us. It sells to the mainstream.
Yeah. I mean, look, there are core gamers that play it. I'm one,
sure.
and I play it.
You've got a huge percentage right there.
Yeah, but 47% are like, no matter what you do with this IP, I don't care. I mean, that's pretty much what they're saying.
Yeah, well, if you're not interested in
shooters,
the latest military man shooter.
I just can't believe that half of the people who replied in this poll hate shooters.
Well, it's not exactly a cross-section of the entire gaming world.
No, but it's half of the people who follow SIFTD on Twitter.
Yeah, but if you did a poll of like, 20,000 people, you'd probably get a more even split.
You would, but there's a certain point, like at GT when we did polls, like once it hit 5,000, we didn't look at them again. Mm-hmm. Once 5,000 people voted in a poll, it never changed.
Well, that's,
That's still a lot more than a few hundred that voted on this poll.
Yeah, it's borderline statistically significant, although you run into the problem of the fact that it's a self-selecting online poll. But, no, I mean, it's just, the vast majority of sales for Call of Duty comes from outside the core gaming demographic, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's like Wildlands. We had most people who were like hardcore fans and follow game news every day had no idea Wildlands was the best-selling game of the first half of that year until suddenly the Ubisoft's like, hey, this is the best-selling game of the year, and we're like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Were you playing that? I wasn't playing that.
No, you're right.
I mean,
there's certain games that hit the mainstream.
The market is vast and infinite now,
which is good.
Oh yeah,
it's exactly what the industry needs.
If you can get like a big, super multi-million mega hit, like over here with these people, and then have another multi-million seller mega hit with a completely different group of people with almost no overlap, that's a healthy market.
It is.
That's good. That means more variety. It means more opportunity. It means more things greenlit that aren't all the same thing.
So just to wrap up the topic, do you think that there's ever a case where a video game can be too violent to be enjoyable?
I mean, I would argue that the medium and the creative and narrative angles of the medium are not mature enough to really handle rape as a subject at this point, if ever. Because there's a point at, like who really wants to do that anyway? It's it's certainly in an interactive sense. But in terms of just sort of like enhancing the violence of what we've already been playing for 30 years, going back to Doom or whatever, or Wolfenstein, like I don't really have an issue with it. Like, bullets kill people.
Well, you're talking about morally, but just to make a game enjoyable to play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the enjoyable to play part of a game like this for me is how good it feels to, the gunplay and aiming. It's like, do I care whether I'm blowing up someone's head in a gory mess of a realistic person, or whether I'm, popping an alien monster's head in Destiny? Not really. I mean, it feels, the fun is there for me one way or the other because of how the game feels to play. Certainly the narrative and sort of the context of things can influence whether I like it more or less. But, gore doesn't really bother me. I mean, I watched Alien when I was 8. Like, gore doesn't
I did too.
Out.
I grew up a total gore hound. My parents did not care what I watched at all. And we had a satellite dish, and we got everything for free.
Yeah. I would argue I'm just the wrong...
But it does bother me. I do feel differently when I'm interacting with a human in a game versus an alien or an animal or whatever. It does. It's the anatomy of it. It's like seeing a human head explode versus seeing an alien head with green goo in it explode. Like, it has a different impact on me, for sure.
It doesn't really for me. I mean,
a scene like that, seeing one human trying to help another human and then seeing somebody kill that human that's trying to help it, that bothers me. It does affect me. And if I saw like a tiger like dragging an injured cub away or what, it would not have the same impact as like what I saw there. It would have an impact.
I would agree that it wouldn't have the same impact because it would have more impact on me, because I find violence against animals in games to be more affecting than violence against humans.
I don't think you're alone. I think there's a lot of people who care about their dogs more than they care about people. So you're definitely not alone.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but like it will bother me more to see like a dog die horribly than a person. Probably because that person was probably an asshole to someone at some point, and that dog was a dog. But like, people also don't kill dogs in games very often unless they do it to like evoke an emotional response. I mean, they're doing it on purpose. They're
well, dogs are also a special case. I mean,
right. Or
a
cats,
lot of people look at dogs
I mean,
like a part of your family,
or cats, or anything.
Like any domesticated pet.
I mean, when there's hunting,
that's why I brought up a wild animal.
When there's hunting in games, it counts in wild animal. Like in hunting in games, I will only kill as many as I need to kill to fulfill the upgrade requirements or whatever. Like I will not just randomly go kill animals in like Far Cry or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't understand why I need 4 tigers to make a pouch of ammo, like just the least effective skinning game. I mean, dude, you need to stop cutting holes in the pelt. I don't know what you're doing because you're not showing me. It's off screen, so I can't. At least when Arthur Morgan does it, you see he keeps that buffalo hide in one piece. He's very good. He's very good at that.
Yeah.
I'm probably like the wrong person to ask on that, just because I don't react like that to things I know aren't real. I react to narrative, I react to theme, I react to sort of effective character work. But like, you just throw me in a thing and say like, oh, look at those innocent people. I mean, would I open fire on a real group of innocent people? Of course not. Like, that's not a thing that I'm interested in.
I don't think anyone would accuse you of that just because you did it again.
You'd be surprised. The internet is,
really?
The internet is interesting about this kind of thing. It's just it's not real.
Yeah.
And there's subject matter I wouldn't want to tackle, like I said, like rape or like kind of sexual slavery. Like usually things like that can really be a thing. Because I think one of the reasons.
I think what's really twisting me up about this with you is that you love movies so much, and so I'm sitting here listening to you talk about this in games, and I'm like, then how do you like movies? Well, they're not real.
Movies have much more effect on me.
But why?
Because they are more carefully crafted and effective narrative work, whereas you always lose something in terms of sort of guiding the emotional experience in a game because you have to give up that control to give people interactivity. I mean, obviously there's like walking simulators and stuff where there's degrees on that. You can pull interactivity way back and still be considered a game.
But aren't you, when you say that, aren't you just assuming that every video game story forever is going to be terrible?
No, because there's a handful that I think are moving on that level, but like 99% probably not.
I mean, I agree with you. You're right. I mean, I've said 1,000 times on GameFace and Invisible Walls, the stories in games are worse than the...
Right. And also, this may tie in with what you're talking about with advanced technology and display capability. Movies are people. There's a real person, I mean, CG or whatever, but there's generally a real actor up there portraying a real person's behavior and, in an effective performance is you're watching a real person. And, computer-generated actors in games just aren't there yet. Not for me, anyway. And I think they're getting there. I mean, they're getting close. I mean, you're hitting a point where, like, some of these deep fakes can be...
I think that Modern Warfare footage is pretty compelling, man. Like, I was like, dang, that looks like...
Or like
body cam footage from the military.
The Last of Us 2 trailer from last E3. Like, I mean, the dance stuff and her interactions with those characters, like, I buy it. Like I mean,
I even bought the interaction with like the bad guys, like that whole skirmish that she has with them. Like I was on the edge of my seat, like scared.
I admit one of the reasons I'm most interested in Last of Us 2 is because assuming that the actual action is the action in that trailer is reflective of what we'll be doing in the game, and they're not going to scale it back the way they did with the first one. Let's not forget.
No, you're right.
I'm very curious what my reaction to that will be, because like that looks like there's a desperation to it. There's a feeling of like because that's the other thing about like it's easy to sort of bleep past mowing down tons of enemies in a game because they die so easy and they just sort of become targets or obstacles. But the Last of Us 2 footage from last E3, there was an element of like people are hard to kill.
Yeah.
Like, and that one, especially that one big guy at the end of the fight sequence, like she has to like wear him down and really hurt him to make him stop being able to hurt her. And that is a very interesting and more disturbing portrayal of violence between two people than I think I've ever seen in a game before, at least in an interactive section. Is if they keep that as...
It definitely felt real, for sure.
Yeah, if they keep that as an element of how the game plays and they don't have a technical reason to try to kind of punt on that, like I'm very interested to see what my reaction to that will be, because watching that trailer, and it also maybe helped that it was juxtaposed with very believable dialogue scenes between characters that I believed felt real in terms of their portrayal visually and acting wise.
That whole thing, you could tell they spent a lot of time on it together.
Definitely. Absolutely.
And it was all planned to do exactly what.
So yeah, I will reserve that, like, we are maybe moving into a period of time where maybe some of these games, especially from someone as a developer as high profile and talented as Naughty Dog, could finally start sort of making me say more often, okay, like I get like this one got me, but no Russian ain't that.
Yeah.
It's because honestly,
I mean, it's also on old hardware. It looks a little cartoony.
And as much as I appreciate sort of going for the shock value on things, I also recognize that they are going for the shock value on that. It's certainly effective.
I'll never forget when I was at that resort in my room by myself and it started. And
I feel like I knew about it already.
Nobody knew about it. Like, we all came back we all left our rooms and went to the mess hall for lunch together. And like, you could tell who had got to it and who had not got to it yet.
I don't think I went down for lunch. I think I just played it. I played until dinner.
You could see it. Like, you could see the look on people's faces that were just like, did I really just experience that? And no one wanted to talk about it because it was a huge spoiler and you didn't know how far people had made it yet. Like, it was very weird. But you're right,
because we were at like this gorgeous resort and like everything was, and like they were serving. Oh yeah, everyone's like super pleasant. We're like, hi.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I was a little burned out just because I spent like 5 hours playing a really loud shoot. I mean, they set you up in these rooms with the crazy audio and like it's just oppressive.
Black Ops 4's audio is incredible. But anyway, that's Activision Blizzard. They're gonna have a shitty E3.
But it sounds like if this is the case here, they might have some of the most coverage of E3.
You may be absolutely right, because what happens when the CNNs and the USA Todays and all get a hold of this? I'm wondering
I don't want to be cynical, but that might be the point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if Microsoft lets a demo of this on its stage.
That's in it, because traditionally, but until this gen, Microsoft's kind of started their press conferences.
It has the choice. With no Sony, it can choose to put that game on its stage.
Unless that's part of the deal with Sony. for the early DLC.
That is possible. But let's just hypothetically say Sony's there. Do you put this in your press conference?
Maybe. I mean, you'd have to control it. But
or do you want them to just put some benign part of the game in where you're just
these
shooting?
press conferences have shown crazy stuff before. I mean, Ubisoft goes around dropping F-bombs like it's going out of style in their press conferences now.
Yeah, there's a big difference between this, though, and swearing.
Yeah, but I mean, saying, like, they're not afraid of, like, pushing the envelope and showing headshots and, like, it's just, showing fatalities with the Mortal Kombat stuff. They've done that before. Like, it's...
I don't think this is just about the gore, though. I think the gore is really low down the ladder of why this is a big deal.
You just do a demo where you don't shoot any women and children.
That's what I was asking. Do you ask them to just play a benign part of the game where it's just a typical Call of Duty and you're just shooting people?
Probably. I mean, I don't know if you want your big, like, memorable moment to be that time in the Call of Duty demo where they shot a boy in the head. Like, that's not.
But if you're in Infinity Ward and Activision, do you agree to that?
Sure.
I mean, this is the game that you've created. At this event, they showed 2 demos that were both like No Russian, like hardcore, got to make decisions really quickly that's going to get people killed that you don't want to see die. If you're Activision and Infinity Ward, do you want to go on a stage and not represent your game as it really is?
Well, that wouldn't be anything new for any of these publishers.
Yeah, so. I guess you're right. I mean, it is all a facade anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I'd be fine. You do the clean version or whatever on the Microsoft stage. You got your own publicity stuff, events or whatever to show it. The really gnarly stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they already did.
Yeah, they did. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Warhammer Chaosbane. It is. And the easiest way to describe it is a Diablo clone. It is a Diablo set in the Warhammer universe. So it's Not the 40K stuff. Yeah, it's the fantasy. It's an isometric cooperative action RPG, just like Diablo. You can play it by yourself. Or you can play it online with up to 4 other players, or, and this is cool, you can play locally with 3 other players as well. So up to 4 can play at once. I guess the best thing I can say about it is that it's not is that it is kind of comparable to Diablo. But that's also its problem, is that it's not Diablo.
Why wouldn't you just play Diablo?
Why wouldn't you just play Diablo? And I think that's a question a lot of people were asking. And honestly, it was a question I was asking myself.
That's some Warcraft-ass shoulders right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Warcraft basically is Warhammer.
Right.
Adapted, but...
Pretty much.
And StarCraft is Warhammer 40K.
Right. Yeah, it's funny.
I don't know how if Games Workshop would call it funny.
Right. I know it definitely wouldn't find it funny because it's become far more successful than Warhammer at this point. The game's story, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even pay attention to it. It's there's this opening cinematic you're seeing right now, and that's pretty much it. The rest of the story is told through crude on-screen characters and text. And after like the first 5 or 6 screens of it, I couldn't even understand what they were talking about. I'll fully admit I know little to nothing about Warhammer's fantasy canon, and as the words just started coming that I didn't know what they were, I just tuned it out and stopped paying attention.
Yeah, I don't know. I know 40K pretty well, but I have never delved into the Warhammer fantasy side.
Nor I, and so I had no idea what was going on. And in all honesty, the story is really not that important. It's basically like, hey, something happened. Now go to this dungeon and kill all that crap in there. Like, that's really all the story is.
You don't need a lot of narrative in these games.
No, you don't. Let's see. I enjoyed it. I played as a ranged character in this, which I never do. I never play as ranged characters in any RPG. It is always the last class that I want to choose, but for some reason...
I love archers in these
I
Diablo
do too.
games.
I do too. I don't know why, but this is the only genre where I like to play as a ranged character. I play ranged characters in League of Legends too, but it's kind of similar in all honesty. They're kind of similar games in a lot of ways. So I played as an archer. And you're seeing right now all the upgrade trees. The upgrade trees are insane. You can basically customize the controller however you want. So all 4 shoulder buttons and the 2 right shoulder buttons you can set them up however you want. Now, like most people, I set like X to like my 1 arrow shot, and then circle to my spread arrow shot, and then use the other 4 buttons for like my area attacks and my special attacks and things like that. But there are literally dozens and dozens of different attacks, and I'll say this too for the pacing. They unlock steadily. So there's always something being added to the skill tree that you can add into your repertoire if you want to. You can also change that stuff on the fly. It's like once you go into a mission, you can still go in and change it all up. So if you set up your attacks and you're not happy with how they're working out, or maybe one attack isn't powerful enough for how much of your meter it's taking, you can change that like on the fly and set it up however you want it to. So there's a lot of customization as far as you can play it however you want. There are like 4 different characters when you first start the game. There's really no character creation tool at all, which in 2019 is a little bit surprising and a little bit disappointing.
Well, to be fair, Diablo 3 doesn't give you much.
No, it doesn't, but this gives you nothing. And this game does have a huge sort of post-launch content plan in place. And it's weird to have games like that don't really delve into cosmetics and things like that. Now, look, you get plenty of loot, don't get me wrong. And it takes quite a while before the loot actually starts looking interesting. You're basically a peasant for the first, 10 hours, and then all of a sudden you're like a super warrior with, these crazy, helms and everything. So my biggest complaint with this game, and I'll just be perfectly honest with you, and it's something that's in almost every game of this type, is first of all, I started playing it one day, and the game has, at least it had, I haven't had them in the last couple of days, it had network issues when it first launched. So the game would not let me play. I was getting an error message that said, your console is sending too many requests to the server. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
The full retail?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, they sent me a code. It's a download code, but it is the final build.
But it was the final.
It was the final build.
It was what was released.
It was review code, absolutely. And so I emailed their PR person. I'm like, hey, I'm having this problem. And he's like, I've heard this before. They're working on it. There's going to be a patch issued overnight. When you get up tomorrow, it will be fixed. I was like, okay. So I just stopped playing it. Got up the next morning, booted it up. Sure enough, he was right. Everything worked fine. So I got in with a group of 3 people online and basically played the game all day. This is one of those games that once you start playing, just like Diablo, once you start playing it, man, the hours just melt away. Because it's just like, you're just constantly engaged. This game has no cutscenes, so you're not sitting around watching stuff. It's like, oh, we finished that mission. We got our rewards. Oh, now here's another one. And when you're playing with other people, it just turns into this thing where you just keep going. And I basically finished the whole game that day. Had to go out and get dinner. I was hungry. Like I said, I had played it all day. Turned off my PS4, went and got dinner, came back, ate, turned it back on. All my progress was gone. Nothing saved.
Because you played it online.
Yep. All my achievements were there. My achievements finished Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5. My character was level 40-something, and all I could play was the first mission, and that was it. I was done. I will never play it again. I realized that's the last Diablo had this same it is crap. It is total crap. Maybe once upon a time I could have understand why they do it. I don't understand it now because I was the person carrying. I wasn't the host, but I was the guy carrying the whole 4-player team. I was the one wiping everybody out while they ran behind me and picked up all the loot. But the person running behind me, picking up all the loot, doing absolutely nothing to proceed, is the one who got the progress.
Because he's the host.
But what's the host? What is the host?
The host is the one who sets the game
That's
up.
bullshit, though. That should not be the reason why he gets to get progression and no one else gets it. That's insane.
That's basically how as I understand it, how the people who like this type of game want it.
Why?
Because they want to have control over how their own game progresses. And if they don't want to progress...
They do have control. You don't play co-op online.
Well, they want to play co-op online, but they don't want that to mess up the progression of their own game.
Playing this by yourself blows. And I think playing all games like this by yourself blows.
You should play it as the host.
What difference does it make who the host is?
I don't know.
I don't even know who the host is. You just go on matchmaking and you click play online and you sit there and wait. How do I know if I'm the host or somebody else is the host?
Well,
how do you know what they deem the host?
Did you join the game, or did you have other people join your game? That's what the host means.
So in the menu, and unfortunately we don't have footage of this, in the menu it says play, and then it says play online.
Okay.
And that's it. When you click play online, it says searching for a game, and eventually you get a game and you start playing.
Well, there must be a way to establish that you want people to join your game rather than go join their game.
Maybe.
But
I couldn't find it. But you can see here, look at this. Like I grabbed this footage yesterday and I'm playing with a bunch of noobs. I two-hit this boss. Like it's a joke. Like I just walked through the game. I'm like, who wants to play this now? Would you want to go through the whole game again just walking through it like that? No.
I have.
It sucks. It's a problem. It's a problem.
I kind of enjoy steamrolling stuff.
I don't.
After doing that.
It was pointless. I was like, what am I doing? And it was funny just watching like the...
Can you up the difficulty
It was
now?
like the little fish that swim along beside sharks. Like
Can you up
them like scooping up the loot as I killed everything.
Can you up the difficulty?
Yeah, you can.
So just do that.
Yeah, but then you have to find people to play with who also want to play at that difficulty.
Well, then at least you will be able to host.
That's true. Then no matter what, I would definitely be the host. Yeah, and again, like I don't want to single out this game for it because, like I said, most games like this do the same thing. I just think it sucks, and it makes me not want to play this game ever again.
Is there an option?
I even told the PR guy.
Is there an option for like to set it so like progress continues even if you're playing out of your own game?
I didn't see that setting. It's funny though, like the way the game is set up. So one time I was playing with some people. And then I stopped to like be at home base and like sell all the old gear and make sure I'm using the best gear and just do all the stuff that you do when you're at home base in these games. And the people who were playing with went ahead and started playing. So I think they were getting sick of me killing everything. And they're like, well, we're going to go without him and actually have some fun playing this game. And so they went ahead, and then I got distracted and started doing something for E3 and came back. And they had gone on and accomplished all this stuff, and I got all the rewards for it. There was a whole, like 5 screens of me having to hit the X button for all the stuff that they did that I had no part of. I was back in the hub. They went out and completed missions, and I got credit for all of it. Like to me, this stuff needs to be fixed. Like it makes no sense.
Well, that's so like you don't miss out on things if everybody else is like running ahead and like doing stuff without you.
I wasn't even in the dungeon with them. I was back in the hub world, what you're seeing right now, which is like where you get like you talk to people and they give you quests and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but it's better than I guess having you miss out on things because people were jerks. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just I think this genre is just kind of caught in this weird place where people want to play it cooperatively, but they haven't figured out a way yet to make it work where the right people are getting rewarded for the right stuff, but it doesn't sound that complicated to me. Like, well, you know how much damage each player takes out of enemies.
The conventional wisdom is that everybody gets the same rewards because
you're a team.
You're a team, and you don't want to like, you know.
But that's not the case.
If you
only one person out of the 4 gets the reward.
What do you mean?
Which is progression through the game.
Well, but loot is the reward.
I mean, I guess it depends on your perspective.
If you're playing a loot game, loot is the reward.
This isn't a loot game. This is an action RPG.
It is a loot game. It's a Diablo clone. Like you're picking up stuff and getting better equipment.
I mean, you do that in every game.
So you can take
in 2019.
Yeah, but that's what these games are. You take on the next difficulty. People play these over and over and over and over.
I would never do that.
I mean,
I would never do that.
I mean, the whole point of the latter seasons in Diablo 3 is like you just play the game over and over again and see how and that's the point.
No thanks.
Like that's what these games are. That's what people who play these games like regularly. That's what they do. Is they play. That's what they like. It's like how many times have you played through the game? Like that's the whole point. Like to get to the highest difficulty level by working your way through the difficulty levels, leveling up, and taking that character through to the top. Like that's the idea.
Not my idea of fun. That's for sure.
Well, they're not like giant juggernauts for a reason. I mean,
yeah, they're a niche genre. But here's the thing. I don't want to like completely talk bad about this game because I liked it. And in fact, if I wouldn't have lost my progress, I absolutely would have went back and finished this game off. I probably played it for 12 or 13 hours, something like that. And based upon what I could tell from the achievements and in-game, it looked like I had maybe 2 or 3 hours left to finish the game. It's very frustrating to play that far and get nothing for it. and have to play another 12 hours to get back to that point. I mean, you can understand my frustration, right?
Yeah.
And so I won't go back and play it. But now that I've armed you with this knowledge...
You could probably get through it pretty fast, though.
Yeah, I mean, I one-hit everything. Like, I literally can just walk through the game now, but that's not fun. It's still going to take 5 or 6 hours. Do I want to do that for 5 or 6 hours? Hell no. Especially right before E3. There's no way in hell I'm doing that. But I still enjoyed it and had a lot of fun playing the game. It's really not much worse than Diablo. I mean... Its quality is pretty up there, but the problem is it's a full-priced game. It is $60 on all platforms. And to that, I say, hell no. I mean, if you haven't played Diablo, the latest Diablo, you can probably get that for like $20 now. And while it isn't...
It's 30.
Is it 30?
But it goes on sale pretty often.
Yeah. And while it isn't like leaps and bounds better than this game, it probably is a little bit better, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper. So,
or you could buy Titan Quest.
Right.
Which... is really good, made by some maybe Iron Lore, and added a new frickin' expansion a couple months ago out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
And is just so long, like it goes on forever, and it has a much more interesting class system than most of these games do. And it's definitely cheaper than $60.
Yeah. So this is full priced on all platforms. The only platform it hasn't come out for is Switch. And in fact, it just released today. It just came out today. But it is available for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. What would I buy this at? Like $30 or $40 probably. I'd feel comfortable. It is online co-op. Once they've had the network issue fixed, and I'll say, the network issue was before the game launched, so it's hard to hold them too accountable for it. Once they fix that, like matchmaking just happens like in the blink of an eye. So it's very user-friendly. There is tons of loot. It is one of those games where you get a new helm and it's like 1.8% better than the helmet you had before. So you're constantly juggling inventory, selling stuff, getting rid of it. There's an interface where you can just give stuff away to this one merchant, and then he gives you rewards for just giving him stuff, and that's what I've ended up doing, just giving away all my gear to him. There's achievements tied into it as well. It's a quality game. Like the story stuff is pretty weak, and you can tell it's from a smaller indie studio. But the quality is there. It plays really well. It feels good. Like these games typically have come from PC, where you play with a mouse and a keyboard. I think Blizzard kind of already beat this already with Diablo.
Yeah, I think Diablo 3 plays better with a controller.
I think it does, and I think this game might play better with a controller too. It plays great. So I had a lot of fun with this while it lasted, but it was only about 12 or 15 hours. If you are like someone who played the living crap out of Diablo and you're looking for the next thing, I think this is a pretty good option, actually, if you're done with Diablo.
Unless you haven't played Titan Quest yet, in which case play that instead.
All right. Fair. That's fair. But anyway, Warhammer Chaosbane, it's hard to recommend for anyone to buy right now. I have a feeling in 3 or 4 months it'll drop down to that $30 or $40 mark.
But in 3 or 4 months, we're going to be in the heat of it.
Yep. It's going to be a hard sell.
Maybe I don't know, maybe on a Christmas sale or something.
Or it ends up as like a PlayStation Plus, Xbox Live, free games with gold game at the end of the year. And in that case, everybody should play it. It is fun. And there's voice chat and everything. It all works great. So I think the problem is it's just Me Too, but it's not priced like a Me Too. So there you go. Warhammer Chaosbane. Let's move along. We're going to talk next about Bethesda. I cracked a joke at the expense of Activision Blizzard earlier, but Bethesda isn't looking all that much better for E3 2019. Right now, it basically has three games, and one of them we don't know exactly for sure what it is. So really just 2 confirmed. Doom Eternal, obviously, is its big game at the show. Doom Eternal is a big game at the show, period. I don't know if you saw some of the photos, but it has one of the big skyscraper graphics. I think at the Fig.
Is it?
I think so, yeah. Which is like a thing every year. Like, who got the Fig?
Who got the Fig?
Yeah, it looks like Bethesda chucked out the cash, which is not cheap.
You never know. One year, I remember we were like standing there like over the course of like a day as they started slowly painting it on. We're like, what is that? I don't know. It's like an RPG. It was Gwent.
Yeah.
Gwent.
You never know who's going to put up the money.
You never know.
CD Projekt Red has a lot of cash, man.
True.
They can afford that stuff.
That was like, I think that was the year after Witcher 3 came out. So yeah, they were they were riding high.
Yeah, they still are. I mean, they still have a ton of money in the bank. So Doom Eternal is Bethesda's big game at E3 2019. And I think if you try to figure out what else is in its lineup, you understand why they paid for that banner, because they're not going to have to pay for much of anything else.
Also, like Doom is kind of the one thing in their whole lineup that everybody can agree on.
No, you're right.
It's like everybody
likes it. Yeah. I don't think I met a single person that did not like the reboot.
Yeah.
Some people may say, "Oh, I didn't like it as much as so and so,"
but everybody likes it because it just got repetitive. But it's like everybody loves kind of the base gameplay,
the circle strafe, gory gameplay of Doom,
like doing the finishers on things. Like it's fun.
It is fun.
The pace of it.
Yep. I don't know if they can show really. Oh, the multiplayer. I guess they can show at E3.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is I don't know if they can show anything at E3 that will move the needle on the game, but they can. They can show multiplayer that people care about. Because remember the last time the multiplayer was handled out of house.
Yeah, that didn't turn out too well.
And it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't memorable. I'm just like, I feel like I could get this in any shooter. So hopefully they're going to cater to the Doom aesthetic a little bit more for the multiplayer. And again, it is being done in-house, so the chances of that happening are a little better than they were for the last game.
I assume they'll show like the invasion thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot going on here that wasn't in the first one.
Well, remember the first one also had that like build your own level stuff.
Yeah.
That's not in this one. They took it out.
Yeah, I have to imagine that was not a big draw.
Oh, it was about as unintuitive as anything can get.
I don't know what Bethesda's sudden a fascination with building stuff
and mods
is,
and everything.
Like,
yeah.
Not everything needs it.
You're right. So Doom Eternal is going to be a big game. The only other confirmed game from Bethesda that's going to be at E3 is Wolfenstein Youngblood. Mm-hmm. It's a spin-off. You play as the two girls. Are they twins?
I don't know if they're twins, but they're. I mean, you're looking at like the
BJ's daughters.
Far Cry New Dawn of
Wolfenstein. Yeah. The last Wolfenstein did well critically. People who played it really liked it, but commercially it did not do well.
No, which is weird considering Far Cry 5 was the bestseller.
Yeah, it is, because it's kind of similar.
Yeah, it's Ubi's best-selling game of the generation, and the spin-off follow-up, I think the sales were something like down 87% the first week.
Yep.
So
I have a feeling this is not going to do especially well either.
No, but I mean, I'll play it because I like the Wolfensteins.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I assume they've got some interesting stuff, or at least some like crazy stuff to show with this, because certainly this series is now known for going pretty far over the top in the diesel punk realm.
Oh, speaking of games, actually, we were talking earlier about violence in games that bothers you. Like, there was a couple scenes in Wolfenstein that made me a little uneasy. I think what bothers me the most is when there's blatant disregard for human life. That tends to be my trigger in games.
I mean, you are fighting Nazis.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of their things.
But the scenes I'm talking about, it wasn't hurting the Nazis. It was a couple scenes where the Nazis hurt you.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, they're Nazis. Like,
right.
That's what they do.
I know. I'm well aware, sadly. But it doesn't mean it can't bother you.
Oh, yeah.
So there were a couple scenes in that game that also kind of made me a little edgy. But this is not the type of game that you want to hang your hat on at E3.
The only thing that made me edgy about the last Wolfenstein was how often BJ whispered.
Yeah.
You enunciate.
Yeah.
Your diction must be perfect.
I enjoyed it.
I can't hear you, damn it.
I thought the default difficulty was maybe a little bit on the hard side.
It was kind of challenging.
And uneven. It's like you walk through
there were
parts
bottlenecks
of it, and then there'd be a
through it,
bottleneck where you just have to fight the
bottlenecks.
same section like over and over. So maybe that's something they can smooth out for the sequel.
Also, I created my own bottlenecks because I'd hit a point where I because you upgrade in that game, or in those games where like you do accomplish a thing, you do a stupid human trick basically a certain number of times and I'd find places where like, oh, this is a good place to do that, and I just do it over and over, get myself killed, and then respawn, and then do it over and over until I got all the upgrades I wanted.
Right.
So I created my own bottlenecks for the sake of like basically like twinking myself.
Interesting.
So,
whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
And then the final game that we don't really know about, but we kind of know about, is The Evil Within 3. So Shinji Mikami went on Twitter, said, hey, I have a game that's going to be announced at E3. It's the only franchise he has worked on for the last 12 years.
And they keep giving this one a chance.
It's early for this. Evil Within 2 wasn't that long ago. I'm kind of surprised that they would already be ready to show
like a year and a
one.
half ago?
Yeah.
End of 2017?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you like this franchise?
I've never played it.
Really? I did play the last one. I played the first one. There's something about them that they just don't click with me. Mm-hmm. And I love Shinji Mikami. I love survival horror games. I don't know what it is about this franchise that just does not trip my trigger. I don't get it. Third time's a charm, maybe. I think another part of it, too, is that I just wish Mikami was doing something else. Like, I wish he was making RE games instead. Like, making the new Resident Evil games.
I did play a little bit of the first one.
You know, I know what jogged your memory was the lockers.
Yeah, I remember the lockers. But I've never played the second one.
Okay. I mean, I don't hate it. There are certainly other franchises I dislike a lot more than this one. But
I only like this part because it reminds me of Yakuza.
Yeah. But it just... I don't know. It just does not do it for me. It seems like a lot of the scares are like cheap jump scares, or not like the uneasy, creepy stuff that I really appreciate.
I did like the idea of how like the gameplay or the kind of the way it was presented changed from like kind of level to level. Like,
yeah.
I don't think they really pulled that off very well, but I like the idea.
It's kind of like that Eternal Darkness type thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. But this franchise is not a gigantic seller. It has fans.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people who really like this, but it's not a big seller. Like, they'll be lucky to sell 2 or 3 million copies of this.
I mean, that should pretty much be Bethesda's slogan at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's in a really tough spot right now, man. Like,
I mean, I think it's inevitable that we see Fallout 76.
Like DLC or something?
Like
them trying to do a make good?
Like a big come to Jesus like DLC plan kind of thing.
How are they going to fill out an hour's press conference, Matt? Are they going to show Doom Eternal for like 45 minutes?
A lot of Doom. Whole lot of Doom.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to sit and watch this one live. I mean, maybe they have a bunch of surprises. Who knows?
I don't know. They might have some
surprises.
They
kind of have to.
They might have to have, Todd come out and sit on a stool and have a rap session with everybody. I mean, they're kind of starting to do that already with some of the interviews that have come out.
Yeah, he just did that interview with IGN where he's like, yeah, we screwed up Fallout 76, and we knew it was going to be crappy before we released it. That's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's not something that feels good about a thing you were charging $60 to $100-something bucks with the bags that turned out to be the wrong kind of bag. Have those shipped out, by the way, the replacement canvas bags?
I don't know.
I feel like we would have seen that news
If you're
story.
Bethesda, you also do not want Todd Howard to be the guy delivering that news. Like, that's something you let, like the CEO announce.
Or like Pete Hines.
Yeah, like
somebody.
You don't let Todd Howard say that on camera.
I just wonder because it feels like they really were counting on Fallout 76 to sort of fill the gap.
Oh yeah.
Between last year and like whenever the hell they get Starfield out.
Yeah.
And like now they've got nothing. Now they got to save this thing or. I mean, what? I don't know.
I'm wondering if like maybe Fallout 5 isn't something that we see.
No, Fallout 5 is not even a twinkle in Todd Howard's eye yet.
What are they doing?
Starfield. They're making Starfield.
And it's years away.
Starfield's 2 years out.
Right,
yeah.
But what have they been doing all this time?
Starfield.
It's crazy.
Oh, you mean before that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Developing new stuff or whatever? I don't know.
All the other stuff other studios handle.
Porting Skyrim over and over?
No, you may be right, actually. And it's worked. I mean, they've managed to milk that game for literally almost $1 billion.
Porting Skyrim cannot be a small job.
No. Especially when you consider the original versions that you're porting from were also a mess.
Right. Like you never know what the hell that thing's going to do.
It's like the source code's already a disaster, and you're trying to port that over to a new platform. It's a fool's errand, it would seem. So that's it. That's all we know about Bethesda for E3. So it could be that Bethesda's press conference is the best of them all.
I mean, they'll probably show. I guess they'll show.
They'll do
Elsewhere.
their mobile thing.
Well, they'll do Elsewhere because the new expansion for Elder Scrolls Online came out today. So I'm sure they'll push that. They'll probably show Blades or talk about how Blades is doing really well.
They may not talk about how Blades is doing. Well,
they might at least show some stuff for Blades. It's like, hey, Blades is here now. Remember Blades?
Yeah.
Y'all like Blades?
We really thought we did until we played it.
Probably not. You can have a new mobile game maybe. Like, I don't know. Like Fallout card game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is going to happen. I think there's going to be a bunch of mobile stuff.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, hey, we have another expansion coming to Fallout Shelter or whatever.
Well, I mean, that's like one of their cash cows, so
it is.
They could use it.
Oh, boy.
You got to fill the gap between... I can't imagine Fallout 76 is pulling in the revenue from microtransactions that they were hoping for.
Definitely not.
So
no.
It sold fine.
Yeah.
But now you gotta make the trudge to whenever Starfield comes out.
Now you gotta hope that people will buy the next Fallout game.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the next
stuff
Fallout
like
game...
that could kill a franchise.
Next Fallout game is so far out that I think that it won't
People
matter.
will forget by then.
Well, they'll forget in some ways, but also, like, I think if you put out Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 and they're winners, that will, people will forgive a lot in the wake of... Because they're all kind of similar things.
Yeah.
So I think you can salvage it, as long as the next 2 games are good, but you got to get to those next 2 games, and that's years out. Years.
It is. All right, let's move on. We're running out of time. We got to get to Microsoft because Xbox has a ton of stuff to talk about. We're going to preview its E3 2019 showing. Would you say this is the most important E3 for Microsoft ever?
I think the most important E3 for Microsoft ever was the introduction of the 360.
Okay.
Because that was kind of your sink or swim moment. Because we didn't know. I mean, the Xbox had done fine, but we didn't know if they were ever going to be able to do anything of interest. And suddenly you had, yes, Jay Allard's sport coat / hoodie combination was a little questionable. And I didn't quite know what to think when he sat down on the stage and started chatting.
Yeah.
But and we never did get to see Velocity Girl sell that T-shirt.
Yeah.
But the fact that a console manufacturer was up on that stage talking about all these crazy, robust online service plans that Nintendo and Sony seem to actively want to sort of avoid at that point.
Yeah.
Sony had just been dragged kicking and screaming into putting a modem on the PS2 with Final Fantasy XI. The fact that you could see that Microsoft was about to basically force the console world into the online age was a very exciting time. This is more and you could see they're going to be okay because they found a reason to be, the other two are going to have to play catch up if this is a thing that the audience wants, and the audience wanted it.
Yeah.
This is more, maybe this is Microsoft's most important E3 for themselves in the sense that now we find out if they're going to be able to compete again.
Yeah.
Because they've been distant third for, at least since the Switch released.
Yep. That's been 2 years,
and
that's a long time.
But I've always said Microsoft is at their most interesting when they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, most companies are, I think.
Yeah, but Microsoft comes up with some good shit when that happens. Sometimes it's stuff that doesn't happen. Velocity Girls T-shirt. But you remember that? When they're you'll be able to design stuff and sell. I'm can you even imagine? You couldn't. Bethesda couldn't get the mod store to work. Imagine the rights involved in someone designing their own T-shirt for a digital character, and then whether that would be downloadable later if you paid real money for it on a next system.
And if you use a copyright written logo, all that stuff.
I assume that what killed that was finally just the entire legal team bleeding out of their eyes on the meeting room table until everyone said, "Okay, fine, we won't do it." But it was an ambitious idea, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see some doors blown off on this one at the very least, in the sense of them saying "Hey, next gen's coming. Even if we don't show you the new system, we want you to know that we know that you know that we have to do better."
No, you're right, and I think it was just announced that they undoubtedly are going to do better this year. 14 first-party games to be shown at E3 by Microsoft. Mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing.
That's a lot.
That seems like a lot, but then you start
That's 3 years of output for them at this point.
It's insane. So we already know 343, the Coalition. They handle Halo and Gears of War respectively. But now listen to the rest of Microsoft's first-party roster. It's pretty freaking amazing. Playground Games, they do the Forza Horizon franchise, rumored to be working on a new Fable. Ninja Theory, Undead Labs, Compulsion Games, the new studio called The Initiative that they just formed, Obsidian, and In Exile. Those are all first-party Microsoft developers now. That is insane.
That's a lot of stuff.
That is huge. Like, that's them going from basically just having Forza, Gears, and Halo to, I mean, it's like going from 0 to 1,000 like overnight.
Yeah, well, or going from 0 to back where they were at the end of the Xbox 360 era, but before they screwed it all up.
This goes far beyond that.
They had a pretty big and deep second-party stable. Like
They had
at the end of that
Lionhead
generation.
and Undead Labs was there still back then.
Yeah, they had that. They had did they have Turtle Rock, or that was Valve took them.
Yeah.
They also just had partnerships with a bunch of different publishers.
Well, they were the leaders, so they were able to sign big third-party deals.
But like they had a robust second-party thing going on that wasn't just Gears and Halo. And I mean, at the time it was second-party because Epic was the one making them,
right.
and then they bought the IP, and that's a different thing now. But still got Rod Ferguson at the helm, so that's the important part. I just, I felt like as they transitioned and it was Matrick, right, that made the real transition to the Xbox One being the set-top box thing. They just left the idea of exclusive game content being the driver of why you wanted this system in the dust.
Something everybody knew.
Of course.
Except them, for some reason. Mm-hmm. It's like everyone knows it's the game, stupid. Without the games, nothing else matters.
Yep.
That's what people buy gaming consoles for.
It was like watching... I got a similar feeling from that era of Xbox that I do from like watching Warner Brothers struggle to adapt DC stuff into movies. You're like, why don't you just ask the people who write the comics to make you a thing that's good to start from, like a basis for you. And the reaction's like, well, they're comic people. So you get the feeling there's a faction. There was a faction.
You realize that's where all these characters came from.
Right. You get the feeling there's a faction at Microsoft at that time that was going like, well, I mean, they're game people.
Right.
Like, we're trying to make,
art.
The Xbox, the set-top box, the entertainment hub of the living room. It's like
TV.
You know what? Just great. I can yell at. I can accidentally say something that sounds like Xbox, and it will rewind their football game in the middle of the big play. Good work. Yeah. Which I actually saw happen the first week the Xbox One was out at a friend's house. Oh my God! I thought he was gonna die.
Let's start getting through some of this because we have a lot to talk about. Pre-E3 announcements, Xbox Game Pass coming to PC, Xbox games playable on PC. Mm-hmm. That's all stuff that's been floating out there for a while.
Xbox games purchasable on Steam.
Yeah.
Like they don't care. Like,
I mean, they really at this point they almost have become platform agnostic.
Yeah, they want you in that Windows environment. They don't care how you get there.
Yeah, and as long as you're buying their games,
which is good. I mean, I prefer. I don't know if it's good for their bottom line, but it's more consumer friendly than anything else anybody else is doing.
Well, Microsoft has figured out that the profit margins are in software and not in hardware. Mm-hmm. And something that most people should figure out very quickly, but somehow Nintendo manages to keep making money on its hardware. Only Nintendo can get away with that, I think. Let's start talking about the games. Gears 5.
Well, yeah, this is probably going to be a big centerpiece.
This
comes out this year.
Gears 5 is my dark horse candidate for Game of the Show.
That would be quite an improvement from Gears 4.
Right.
I will say
That's what I'm saying is a dark horse. But look, with Gears 4, they proved that they can make a good Gears game. Brand new studio, working on the franchise for the first time, with Rod, obviously, but
certainly it was a better Gears game than Halo 4 was a Halo game.
Absolutely, and a better Gears game than Halo 5 was a Halo game. And so when you start from there, and you start building out from that, and we already know they're talented, I think there's an opportunity for this game to be something special. It
kind of depends how much is shown of Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, right. Like I said,
that's just me, the CD Projekt fanboy, but like,
well, you don't have to be a CD Projekt fanboy to believe that. I mean, that's why I said dark horse. Yeah. I think this game is going to surprise people at E3 in general. I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise for most people. It's apparently an open world game now, which is weird for Gears. Those rumors have been floating around for the last couple weeks,
especially since like similar rumors float around Halo Infinite.
Right.
Like, this is just how things are now.
It just seems like that's just the way every game is going to be. Because if you're trying to make a game that can keep generating revenue for the next 2 or 3 years, they kind of have to be open world.
You got to build a world around it because that's the easiest thing to expand.
It is, absolutely. So,
and it's almost like I feel like there's a contempt for levels now.
There is.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, there's a load, and then I'm in this thing, and then it ends, and I get zapped out of it. Like,
well, how did I get here? I don't know where I am now.
Yeah, how did I travel here?
You lost me. Turn it off.
It is funny. Next up, Halo Infinite. Is there a game that means more at this E3 to Microsoft than Halo Infinite?
Long term, probably not.
Yeah, this game has
like,
to hit big at E3.
Like this is your launch. I assume your launch system seller. Like this is
your 800-pound gorilla.
Like this is the thing that like is inextricable from the early success of the next system.
I mean, great first step, making Master Chief the focal point of the story.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know why anyone would have to tell them this. It's Chief. Master Chief is why people like Halo. Maybe the game should focus on Chief. I don't know. It seems like a no-brainer to me. But they're getting it right this time. Instead of having some cameo or bit part, the game is focused on him.
Yeah, hopefully fewer levels where you stand around in a camp and talk to people for 10 minutes.
Yeah, or where you fight everything and push a button.
That then are counted as levels. Come on.
Yeah. I am hoping I don't have to push any buttons in this game. None. I don't want any. I think the approach that they've taken with showing the game so far has been smart. I think it makes it look like a completely different franchise. Who cares about like wild caribou? Whoever cared about caribou in Halo? And wild animals and wildebeests running in herds. Like, just what they chose to show for the first time with this game, to me, is very telling. So I think people should be prepared for this to be very different from what they're used to with Halo. And I hope that people are willing to accept that.
And also the fact that they're showing kind of these rings, and they're calling it Infinite, which has a history in the Bungie pedigree. I know they're not Bungie anymore, but there are people there who are from Bungie in the old days. Because Marathon Infinity was one of the craziest time loop travel, multiple dimension, alternate timeline things I've ever played. And if they're kind of going somewhere like that with this, it could be a mind-bendingly crazy thing.
It could.
Almost, no pun intended, infinite possibility, which I'm pretty sure is why they named it that.
I am really excited to check this game out. Like, really, really excited.
I mean, I am hoping that like that this is the game that makes me love Halo again.
Yeah.
Because it's just a non-entity in my mind and has been for this whole generation.
I still like it, but I have completely fallen out of love with it.
Right.
And I agree with you 1,000%. I hope that this is the game that rekindles that love affair. Because I used to love Halo.
Yeah.
Halo 3, God level, God tier.
Bring back Marty O'Donnell.
I think that might be in the cards.
Bring back Marty O'Donnell, you cowards.
I think that might happen. Because he doesn't have a beef with 343.
No, yeah.
He has the beef with Bungie. Yeah.
But like, I mean, there was probably conflict of interest there when he was working for Bungie.
Not anymore.
No, bring it, because that man is the soul of this series.
I have a feeling
his music is what makes this series what it is. So.
I have a feeling that will be like a big reveal.
Good.
I think that maybe there's an orchestra there, and then he comes out and conducts there. Something, I think there's going to be some kind of cool thing around it, I believe. And we will all rejoice.
That would give me a whole lot of hope for this.
Next up, Battletoads. Another game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That.
Oh, yeah. Another game that was debuted at E3 last year, and we have seen nothing since. Also, I should remind you that this trailer says coming in 2019.
Oh, yeah, it does.
So, is that still happening?
I mean, we don't. Well, honestly, their release schedule for the second half of this year is wide open.
There's nothing.
Except for
nothing
Gears.
Announced. Yeah, except Gears isn't even announced.
We assume Gears is because of leaks. But
yeah, that's just an assumption, though. Like, there's nothing announced for the second half of 2019. Obviously, this teaser trailer doesn't show much of anything. It's just a bunch of little graphics and goofy whatevers. But
I'm very curious what the art style will be.
Me too. I mean, will it be like the Battletoads, how they appear in like Killer Instinct, like that weird kind of like amphibious,
the creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like the stuff.
Or will it be cartoony?
Oh, 4K hand-drawn 2.5D graphics. Okay.
So it's going to be cartoony, like
it'll
be
comic booky.
Which also makes me think that it's really kind of like an indie game.
It says will return in 2019. That could just mean we're going to show it to you in 2019.
That's true. But at the time, even when I saw it the other day, I was like, oh, meaning like the franchise is returning in 2019. But
I don't think it's entirely unlikely that this could be like a September, October release or something.
I think this is going to be like the latest No More Heroes.
Yeah,
where when you first hear about it, you're like, oh my god, is it? And then you realize it's just like this little like indie spin-off thing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of all it needs to be in a lot of ways. I mean, it's like, what do you want? Like Devil May Cry 5, but with Battletoads? Like that's not in the cards.
I think that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's not in the cards. And Rare isn't developing it either. They put some like B team on it to develop it. So I would not get my hopes up too high about the next Battletoads. Gears Pop. Does anyone care about that?
I mean, Funko collectors, I guess.
Yeah.
They're still out there.
Yeah.
Keeping GameStop alive.
It feels like that whole thing is kind of passed over at this point.
I mean, there's still a thing.
I don't see people talking about Funko stuff. And like,
I never saw people talking about Funko stuff, but I try not to associate with those people.
Well, we curate articles about new Funko figurines on Sifted. Mm-hmm. And when Sifted first launched, those stories would get a good bit of traffic and like comments. Now,
yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a very useful draw at this point. I mean, it's a draw in the sense that it's so weird that that it even exists. I guess it doesn't mean anybody's going to actually open their wallet for it.
Right.
I don't know. The Funko Pop thing is so oddly ubiquitous. Like I've got like 6 or 7 in the house, and I don't know why. Like,
I don't know.
I've never bought one, but they show up in those loot crate things, or in like little gift bag things, like whatever. And it's just like, and like every once in a while you find like, where did I get an invisible Bilbo from?
Yeah. And why can I see it?
Yeah.
And then
Funko, I turn into Smaug. It's like, what, Funko? I can smell you. Like,
next is a game that I think people may have forgotten about, but I think actually could make a splash at the show, and that is Gears Tactics.
Oh, yeah.
It's an XCOM game set in the Gears universe. Again, another game that was announced at E3 last year, and we have not seen since.
Yeah.
And even at E3 last year, we have like 19 seconds of footage, and that's all there is. That's all there is out there, period. 19 seconds of this game. My guess is we see a big gameplay demo of it on stage.
Yeah, I mean, I like this as a kind of an alternate direction for Gears. I think this makes sense.
It makes too much sense. It's great, and I love how they brought like the gore and the viscera into it. It's awesome. It's like an M-rated XCOM, although I think XCOM might be
XCOM is M-rated, yeah.
But you know what I mean. Definitely a lot grittier and gorier, and I think it makes sense in the universe. It's not a stretch to make this happen. It's less of a stretch than an RTS Halo game.
And there's merit in sort of showing the kind of the more like, you know, line of duty sort of battles in this universe, like as opposed to sort of the
you're always the cogs, the stars.
The crazy special forces stuff that the cogs do, running down the gullets of giant worms and shit.
Yeah,
it's a giant worm. Control, this is Delta reporting. I don't know.
That's pretty good, man. You do a pretty good impersonation.
Don't tell John DiMaggio to kill me to keep his job.
Ori and the Will of the Wisps. We've got slight updates about that across the last year.
Yeah, I mean,
I really need this game to come out.
I know it's on your fantasy team.
I really need this game to come out.
It's probably coming. I did run into someone who is related to the project, and he seemed positive.
Good.
So
I thought you were going to say something else. So
he seemed positive about the quality of the game.
Not that it was coming out this year.
Yeah, I didn't get a hint on that.
I'm really starting to sweat it now. I never dreamed we'd have to wait till E3 to even find out if it was coming out this year. I thought for sure by now they would have given it a release date.
I said when you picked it, I think this one's risky.
It's starting to look dicey.
I think you'll see it. I think it'll make it. But you know, like you never know. It could be like a January thing. Like it could see.
No.
But what I meant was I think I am very confident that this will be as good as the first one, if not better.
Yeah, if it comes out, I think I'm gonna be really happy with it. Where I drafted it and the score that it gets, but thing has to come out. Age of Empires 4. People forget that this was shown at the press conference last year. I think it's kind of part of its.
Who's making this?
Creative Assembly.
Oh, it's Creative Assembly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's part of. This is kind of the Trojan horse between the whole Xbox and PC You like that?
Between
the whole Xbox and PC sort of crossover convergence thing that's going on, this is kind of a game that can kind of get both audiences excited about it.
It's definitely a PC game,
right?
Trying to make the leap the other direction.
Exactly. Yeah, because all the stories have been about really all these Xbox games. You can play them on PC. Well, it's good to see it kind of go the other direction for once. Yeah. Although it'll be interesting trying to play this with a controller.
Trying to crack the RTS thing. I mean, I feel like Battle for Middle-earth 2 pulled it off pretty well on Xbox 360. It's no substitute for just playing with a mouse and keyboard, but it's doable. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. And then another thing I think is going to be a big topic there is Project xCloud. Obviously, Microsoft signed the big deal with Sony and Nintendo to provide cloud services to them. But who talks about it at E3?
Well, if they're going to talk, I would not be surprised if they didn't talk about it at all, because they want to do the hype thing. They don't want to stop for a tech demo.
How rewarding is it for Microsoft to stand on stage, though, and say, hey, we signed a deal with Sony and Nintendo for them to use our technology?
Yeah.
It's a pretty big deal.
It's more of a big deal for the shareholder call.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'd be a little surprised if they mentioned this.
Yes, E3 really isn't the place to talk about cloud.
Like this is a GDC discussion, and also like I feel like you're not gonna be able to give enough specifics to make it worth talking about yet.
Yeah.
So
I think they'll mention it. It's too.
I'd be like a one-off sort of like, and of course the Project xCloud, which we have made deal with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Next up, please welcome. It'd be like a quick.
But it's hard to not mention that Sony and Nintendo had to come to you.
Yeah. It'd be tempting to throw in like a weird little thing. It's like Sony's sort of here this year with us,
right? And right, because you also remember what Sony did to Microsoft.
Right.
This is how you share games on PlayStation 4. I don't think anybody would blame Microsoft for taking a little dig. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
an eye for an eye.
Like here, you put the Sony logo up for your partners and be like, "Here's the one time you'll see that logo this week."
Well, yeah, exactly. Or just having the PlayStation logo on the screen on your stage at E3. That's a big freaking deal.
That's fun.
Even if they just have to flash it up for 2 seconds.
I don't think they'll do that just because they have to continue working with these people.
Exactly.
But it's nice to dream.
It is. I mean, I don't know. Sony did it to Microsoft, and they're working together, so.
That was years ago. Also, Sony had the position of power.
It did. Well, the power had just been transferred like 3 hours earlier.
Yeah, but it counts.
It does. The power had been transferred. That's absolutely true. The Outer Worlds, it's a multi-platform game, but it's
because it was in development before they got bought.
Right, but I still think that like Outer Worlds will be shown on Microsoft stage.
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, where else?
Who else is going to show it?
Yeah, nobody. There's no one else to show it. It's crazy. E3 2019, crazy town. And this, I think, will be a pleasant reminder to Xbox fans that, this game's multi-platform, but these guys are making games only for us going forward.
Yeah, Obsidian is a crazy good get, and I mean, at least I understand the desire to want Obsidian to remain independent, but it's like if the choice is Obsidian becomes part of Microsoft or Obsidian goes away, I'll take Microsoft.
It's also better because if they're with Microsoft, you're getting it on 2 platforms. You're getting it on Xbox and PC. So at least you have 2 options to try to buy the game still, whereas if they went with Nintendo or Sony, that would not be the case. You'd be stuck with a console and that's it.
I mean, I do like these guys. I think, obviously, they are... they have kind of lost a little verve with the departure of Chris Avellone, who is apparently never going to work with them ever again.
Oh, yeah, he hates them.
And he was sort of the heart and soul of the reason their narrative was so good.
Yep.
Speaking of which, where's Dying Light 2?
There is some stuff swirling about that this week too, actually.
Yeah, I mean my eye is on Dying Light 2 almost exclusively because he's writing it.
Right. But he get on that project pretty late.
Yeah, but he can elevate. I mean, he's also working on Jedi Fallen Order.
Right.
Like the man can elevate material.
Yeah, for sure. He can punch it up. So we'll see the Outer Worlds. They'll probably show a gameplay demo.
Is this year? Have they said
it
anything?
Is, yeah. And they have actually shown a good bit of gameplay of this already. There's about 30
I'm interested.
minutes out there.
This is like, it's not kind of
It's a new Fallout.
It's not the French space opera stuff, but it does have sort of this kind of batshit weird and it like element, and it pops with color.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I like it.
I mean, it just looks like Fallout to me, to be perfectly honest, and I'm okay with that because if we can have 2 studios making new Fallout games, well, that means we'll get one every 3 years or so.
I mean, I see the pedigree, but I don't quite think of it as. I mean, it looks kind of, I guess, like Fallout and Borderlands had a baby a little bit, but it's Obsidian, so they're gonna do some weird like narrative choice making. And it's gonna be solid. This guy, I have faith.
Well, I'm excited for it. Absolutely. And then two things left to talk about with Microsoft. HoloLens 2. Think they're going to show it?
No.
It makes for an impressive stage demo, and it showed it, the HoloLens 1, for like 20 minutes last time.
If you lie about it, yes, it's an impressive demo. But then you put it on.
Well, you don't think that Minecraft demo is legit?
No, then you put it on and you realize how narrow the field of view is.
Yeah.
I think the HoloLens 2 is bigger, but it's still like not even half your field of view.
Well, the one thing I would say about it is that Microsoft doesn't even seem to be feigning that it's for consumers this time.
Not at all.
Like right as soon as it announced it, it said it's for industrial applications. We're selling these to large corporations.
Yeah, this is. I think HoloLens, you're going to mostly see that at stuff like DICE and GDC
from now on.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because it is really cool tech.
It is cool, but it's the journey from that to consumer tech is just it's going to be a while.
Magical leap.
Ugh.
Talk about a doomed company. I didn't even see them on the vendors list for E3.
No, you're right. I didn't see that.
Yep, that's not good. And then
Oculus still got its booth.
Yeah, it does. And then finally, and we've talked about this before, so we won't talk about it much. Xbox 2 or whatever the next Xbox is. Mm-hmm. You're still digging in, saying they're not going to show anything?
Not a chance in hell.
Okay.
I mean, they might mention it, and they might like kind of drop a little hint about like, and next year you'll see our new thing, but you are not going to see anything. And maybe we'll see something about like
no specs.
No specs, I don't think. I think you might see like a here's an example of like what Gears 5 will look like on this, or like
so they show like an 8K version of Gears running or something, and they're like, this is what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, like that at most. That's what they're gonna do because they don't need to show it. It doesn't do you any good to show it now. It's 18 months out. It's not,
unless it's not 18 months out.
It is. It's next year. It's next fall. There's no way.
Why do you say that?
Because it doesn't do them any good.
To come out before PlayStation 5?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because why would it?
Because you're having people have the opportunity to buy your console before they even have the opportunity to buy a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, but they don't. I don't think that's the strategy. I think they want you to buy it because it's more powerful and it's got Halo on it, and you can compete toe to toe that fall, unless you think Halo Infinite is going to be done by March.
I mean, it should be, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it will be, but it should be.
If it was, I don't think they'd be doing this slow rollout of all the Master Chief Collection stuff. And Reach and
I don't think it's going to come out in March. I just think it should be. They've been working on it for so long. It should be pretty much done at this point.
I think they've had to reinvent a whole lot of stuff on that.
Which is good. If
yeah,
that's the case,
it absolutely needed to happen.
I hope
no
that's
question.
exactly what happened. They need to reinvent some stuff on that franchise.
No, it's both new systems are fall next year at the earliest, and we're going to see them blown out next year one way or the other, but it's not like Microsoft does no good to themselves by tipping their hand to Sony this early. I don't even know why Sony tipped their hand this early. I mean, I don't know what that thing with Sony was, what the strategy was there. Maybe just to like kind of make everyone know, Omar's coming, but like I don't know.
I'm still going to stick to my guns. Something about the next Xbox is going to be mentioned during their press conference at E3.
I don't think it'll be more than that one time they sort of dropped the Scorpio reference, and remember that? Like 2 years before the Xbox One, they finally admitted Project Scorpio was a thing.
Yeah.
All right, Project Scorpio, you're going to be amazed. Here's the logo. All right, let's move on to the next Gears of War. So
I think they'll say something substantive, because just saying that it's coming, everybody knows that already. Like, there's going to be something substantive announced about the next Xbox at E3. It's like the lower thirds. Opportunity knocks. They're never going to have this chance again to have the whole stage to themselves. And it would be idiotic to not share something about your next gigantic product. I think Microsoft is smarter than that. I just cannot see it completely ignoring it. And granted, 14 first-party games, that's a lot if they're really showing all those, which doesn't leave a lot of time to talk about hardware, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination.
I think at most they say, basically, it exists, please be excited. And that's it. They Square Enix it.
I'm counting on, at the very least, them saying, and it will be X% more powerful than what Sony just announced for PlayStation 5.
To me, it feels even a little early to kind of commit to that. Like, I don't know.
I mean, they know what the specs are.
I feel
already.
like they know, but there's still room to tweak, and I feel like Microsoft is they're crouching tiger right now. They're waiting. They're waiting to see what they need to compete with.
Well, a lot of it
because their problem last gen was jumping too soon.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on how much software they want available for their console at launch.
Yeah, and they ain't going to talk about the DMC, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. But I think
the DRM rather.
Yeah,
DMC.
I think
that's Devil May Cry.
or DMC or Run DMC. But I just think this is too big of an opportunity to pass up. They have to make some kind of a noise around it.
See, that's where I think Patron, I disagree. I don't think it's an opportunity at all because it's too far out. It's so far out from when you would need people to know about it and be excited about it that like it's a fart in the wind. Doesn't matter. Like you got to wait until you're on the home stretch. You don't put the landing gear down when you're 100 miles out. I think at most you're going to get kind of a project name, or what is the project name?
Anaconda. Yeah. I think
this Anaconda don't want none.
But it's
until
weird because
it's next year, son.
You're also talking about the xCloud stuff, which Anaconda all ties into as well.
I don't think they're going to talk about that either, outside of like a quick mention. If that, I think we're going to see. I think this press conference is going to be one of those, like, you remember when Sony's press conferences suddenly became like, we're just going to show you fucking games, and it's just going to be games and games and games, and occasionally Jack Tretton's going to come out and be like, hey, you like games? Here's a game. Like, it's just going to be that. There's not going to be any kind of like business stuff. I don't think there's going to be anything like that.
That made sense for Sony in the middle of a generation. It doesn't make sense now to do that.
Well, that's
it doesn't make any sense at all to do that. You have a console that's basically dead in the water, except for whatever third-party stuff.
Exactly. You got to get people excited about what's coming. Like
what's coming to Xbox 2.
Yeah, but you can't talk about that yet.
Yeah.
That's why. And the other option is to do with Sony and just not show up. So, I think Microsoft is going to be, but all this stuff I think you're going to see on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Like it's going to just be cross-compatible.
Sure.
So they can talk about it as much as they want, and then maybe you show a thing like, hey, one day Gears 5 might look like this.
But maybe that's what they're going to do, is they're going to show all these second first-party games that are in development, and every time they're going to say, here it is running on Xbox One, here it is running on Xbox 2.
I don't think they're going to do that, although with one thing. Like probably, also because remember, Gears 4 was the thing they used to sort of like push 4K and sort of, they had it on that $100,000 TV in the booth where it looked like a moving painting.
Well, they had like the Dolby Atmos demo and all that shit. Yeah, it was cool. That blew my mind, actually. Dolby Atmos.
That's one of the most beautiful displays I'd ever seen.
It's unreal. So that's it. That's Xbox at E3 2019. I will say this before we move on. I feel like whether the next Xbox is or is not shown is the biggest mystery of all of E3. It's the question everybody is wondering.
See, I think that's not a mystery at all, because I'm really sure I'm right. I'm not wondering. That's literally not a thing I'm wondering about at all. My big mystery is, what the hell is Bethesda going to talk about for an hour?
Is that your biggest question about E3?
From kind of a planning production standpoint, that would be one of my biggest questions of like, how would you fill that hour? I don't have a lot of questions about this E3. I feel like this E3 is sort of a gimme in some ways. It's not much going on. It's sort of except for like Nintendo's sort of like, we've got a packed schedule, and Microsoft's like, hey, we bought a bunch of people. It's sort of like it's a down year, and it's partly because Sony's not there. It's partly because EA has literally nothing to show outside of one Star Wars game that's probably 2 years too late.
Yeah.
I just there's not it, and it also kind of has this sort of pall hanging over it over like you said, is the question now becomes like, is E3 even a thing anymore? So there's sort of it's a little bit of a funeral dirge playing in the background, and like I think that puts a bit of a damper on it, at least for someone who's been to as many of these things as we have.
Yeah.
So
I'm still really excited. Like, it honestly, I don't know. E3 has a way of coming through every time.
Maybe once you get there, I think the press conferences sometimes are really, especially when you finish with Square. Like, finishing with Square is a risky.
It's not
move.
exactly a flourish.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you finish with Nintendo on Tuesday morning.
Well, kind of. I mean, it used to be where you did finish with Nintendo, and that was like the excitement. Everything built up, and then you finally went to Nintendo's press conference.
Right, and then from there you went to the floor, to the convention center.
That's where the fans were most rabid, and like that got you into the spirit. Mm-hmm. Like, say what you want about fanboys, but when you're at E3 and you're at one of those press conferences and they're losing their minds, it can't help but be a little infectious. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of lost that over the last couple years.
Yeah.
But somehow, some way, for me, E3 always delivers.
I would say it delivers in the sense that, like, I never regret going because I see all these people I know and friends I like and stuff, but, like, I don't know, like, more and more these days, it feels like I'm rarely surprised. Like, that was one of the reasons I like Starlink so much, was because I was suddenly surprised at how much I like this game I never even really gave a second thought to.
That's why I'm hyped for Death Stranding. It's different, you know? Like, it's something just completely bonkers, off the charts different.
Well, I wouldn't say Starlink's as bonkers as Death Stranding. But
but I'm just saying, like, there's always something, like, at the show that just reinvigorates my fervor for games.
Well, the trick there is that Death Stranding is not at the show.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But my point is, there will be something there that does that. There always is. Even if it has to be Cyberpunk 2077 again. I'll take it. All right, we got to really get through this last topic, and the good news is it's short. So we have one last topic for tonight's show, and that is just a general roundup of all the crazy E3 rumors and crap that have been flying around over the last week. First one we're going to talk about is the Avengers project. It appears that the game is called Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah, they usually call that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the movie's called.
I mean, it was
too.
Marvel's Spider-Man. That's Insomniac's game. So it looks like the final title is going to be Marvel's Avengers. Some details have leaked out about this. It's not good, in my opinion, what I've heard about it so far. It's not bad, but it just kind of
I feel like it's what we thought it was going to be.
It's exactly what I hoped it wouldn't be, which is like a 4-player cooperative, beat 'em up, hack and slash.
Run, what was it? Dread it, run from it. The Destiny clone arrives all the same.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a little disappointed to hear that, to be perfectly honest. But look, it is Crystal Dynamics.
Hey, it's an Avengers game. It's about fucking time.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I mean, the game's going to sell.
Give it to me.
The game's going to sell like crazy no matter what.
Yeah, give it to me. Could I get to play as Iron Man or put on an Iron Man suit or whatever?
Yeah.
Great. Done. In.
But
Do
it really does just sound kind of like Ultimate Alliance. Like just a co-op game that you play with 3 other players and...
Well, Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming out already, so it can't just be that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be more of like a third-person action adventure, thing. It's clearly got a games as a service element because it talks about how the world is constantly expanding, which to me means you're always adding DLC grind to play.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe I'll see it, and it's like a third-person thing. Apparently, maybe it's going to be like a thing where
it is at the show.
Yeah, it's there.
It's going to be there.
Well, it's like I said, like you have to show that. It has to come out this year. It has to. Like you cannot miss the year of Endgame to put this thing out. There's no way. I mean, you've got some leeway with the Guardians game that Montreal's working on, or Eidos Montreal's working on, because you don't have to worry about Guardians 3 until the spring of 2021.
Right.
But this thing's got to come out. You got to get this thing out. Like it's been however long.
They're going to be striking while the iron's lukewarm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get in on later in the year when the home releases out, and like, but even then you're talking about August, September.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But and most of the time, I like what Crystal Dynamics makes. I like.
Yeah, I said earlier they're a great
studio.
So. Yeah.
I just hope it's like actually lets you play as the characters, and it's not some weird like create a shield agent thing, and like sort of like or like the DC.
Well,
stuff,
when you start talking about game as a
thing.
service and like snapping parts on and all that,
like DC Universe thing, where like you create a superhero.
Like, you can have Superman's cape.
Right, you can work for Superman and have his powers, but you're not Superman.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
no, I agree with that. Like you have to play as him. Absolutely. Next up, Watch Dogs. It's not 3. It's Watch Dogs Legion. Leaked this week. Mm-hmm. The title also...
Yesterday.
Yesterday. The title, and then Jason Schreier jumped in. He's like, oh, yep, that's the title, and I have some more information for you. So the big thing is you can play as any NPC in the game. which seems pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it made me think, and this is not a flattering comparison, but it's the only thing I thought of was Driver San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
where Tanner dies and you're like a ghost and you can possess any vehicle on the street. I'm like, are you doing that?
It's so weird.
Like you're just gonna be like a hacker that can like drive cars remotely. I mean, you already had that in 2, where you were like driving, you could make the cars go forward. I did that more than anything else in that game, was just cause traffic wrecks.
Yeah.
Like I would just ram cars into things and hope they blew up. And so I mean, I like the idea. They're talking the description that was on the pre-order thing that went up basically said it's a near future dystopian London post Brexit.
But it's not a political game.
I can't wait to see how Ubisoft says it's not political. That'll be a fun spin moment.
Yeah.
I can't wait to find out what kind of irritating edgelord dude you play as.
Right.
I mean, I like Marcus okay actually, but like there was a weird thing with him where like, and they did address this in DLC later, where it's like, Marcus doesn't seem like a person who'd just be gunning down dozens of people on the missions, because you have non-lethal stuff, but you had like 2 non-lethal things and a whole bunch of real guns, and eventually they added like non-lethal options for all the gun types, so you didn't have to have Marcus kill people because Marcus didn't seem like a killer, whereas what's his name from the first one totally was. Was it Aiden?
No problem there, Aiden.
So, like, I don't know. I wonder which direction they'll go with this one. Will they do that or do like a...
I mean, I hope it's grittier. Like, I don't want this style.
I mean, if you're going to do future dystopian London, you got to go grittier.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the tone of 2 felt like it belonged in kind of the modern Silicon Valley tech boom, and that was sort of it. Like, that, you can't really remove it from this environment.
It was just kind of goofy, I thought.
It was, but it kind of worked in the sort of like...
I mean, in the context of the game, it worked great.
In the context of the setting, it functioned. I feel like this one's going to be a little darker. I hope, because I always love my favorite parts of the game, Watch Dogs, other than causing car wrecks with the remote driving thing, is I love scanning people and like reading a little info about them and like stealing their money or deciding not to steal their money because I'm like, oh, they seem like a good person. I'm not going to take their money.
They donated to charity. I'm not going to take their money.
Just sort of like walking around, like scanning all the NPCs and figuring out like who they are and like what they. I hope that they have found a way to like make that aspect, like kind of the privacy intrusion or the information gathering, matter more as opposed to sort of like just constant Easter eggs.
Well, look, if you're picking NPCs to play as,
that
I guess information becomes paramount now.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like maybe that would help decide who you want to control or whatever. But like that kind of stuff was always my favorite thing, just especially because of the thought they put into it. Like there was just this. Like you could tell
the work that went into it.
You could tell the writers worked a long time on coming up with hundreds of interesting little quirks or background things.
They have to create people out of nothing. It's not a fun job.
So kind of like doubling down on kind of that living world of strangers, I think would be a very interesting way to move the series forward. Just because that's always been the most interesting hook of Watch Dogs for me is the privacy intrusion aspect.
Yeah, for sure. It's something we deal with in reality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we wanted to round up before E3 is here, Square Enix announced a game here in the last 24 hours called Outriders. No information's given whatsoever. They put up like a 19-second teaser trailer. They're like, we'll show you what it is at our press conference. And that's it. That's all they gave us. Just that woman. So you can look forward to that at the Square Enix press conference. But...
Is it a press conference? We're sure it's not like
I think it's a pre-recorded whatever.
Pre-recorded
doesn't even matter, really.
I guess not.
It doesn't. If you're not there,
last year's was like, woof.
It was.
Woof.
Yeah. It was rough.
I remember the first thing you said after I saw you after that was, you're like, I'm glad we didn't go live for that.
Yep. Exactly. So that's it. That's our on GameFace pre-E3 prep for you guys. Like I said, we have more content coming during the week this week. We have our top 20 most anticipated games still coming this week. We have a final episode of Ask Shane Anything before E3 kicks off. And Vincent is cooking up something special for you guys. It's going to be published this week as well. So lots more pre-E3 stuff, but that is it for GameFace. And it is time for our trailer of the week. I have a feeling trailer of the week is going to be very easy to pick after this week, but this week it was pretty dry. In general, this week was slow. Like if you look at 2 weeks ago, more stuff was breaking than there was this week as far as like rumors and leaks. This game's a bit of a surprise to me because maybe I missed the boat on it or it went over my head. I was not aware that it was a game back in the day that was big enough or did well enough to get a remaster, but Ghostbusters, the game, is being remastered. Let's check it out.
Are you troubled by strange noises in the night?
Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic?
Have you or your family actually seen a spook, specter, or ghost? If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Just pick up the phone and call the professional.
Call the Ghostbusters.
Something strange in your neighborhood. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! If there's something weird,
It wasn't me this time, I swear it.
who you gonna call? I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Now she calls my name.
Lock the exits!
Don't let it escape with her.
Hit it with fire.
Gonna call. Louder!
So did I miss the boat on that game? Was it like good? And
Yeah, it was all right.
Was it?
It was. I reviewed it. I think I gave it a 4.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's. I mean, it's Ghostbusters 3.
Okay.
Literally, I mean, Aykroyd consulted on the story. It's the last performance of Harold Ramis as Egon. They got everybody in.
All the voice cast,
Yeah,
everything.
it covers it pretty. I mean, there's a couple of like clunky parts. There's, it's not like the most stellar gameplay in the world, but it does capture the sort of out of control nature of trying to wrangle the ghosts from the movies.
I'm also guessing that song is going to send up a copyright flag on
Yeah,
YouTube.
it's very likely. Yeah. But no, it's good, and it was a shame when it got delisted because the license expired. So I'm glad they're bringing it back.
Yeah.
I will definitely get it on something, one way or the other. If you care about Ghostbusters at all and you didn't play it, you should definitely try it. Also, I don't know what they're doing with the multiplayer, but the co-op multiplayer was actually a lot of fun.
Really?
There's a lot of co-op, like kind of horde mode stuff with it, and like if you're with a good group coordinating with the traps and capturing things, like it was really fun.
Wow. Surprised to hear that.
It was a solid game. I think was it Terminal Reality that made that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I miss those guys. They did some good stuff.
They did. Before we get to Q&A, I want to say thank you to Polynomial for subscribing via Twitch Prime, Danny Boy 90, and I think that's all I have. Yep, that's all I have in my... I only have like 5 comments on the whole thing because I'm using the phone app.
I got J Reed Vic 7.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Really, really appreciate it.
That's all I see right now.
Okay. Let's see. Do you have any questions? Here's one from Freeze Frame Rate. Thoughts on Rocksteady's new game not coming to E3? Yeah, so this broke literally right before we went on. Rocksteady's game is not going to be at E3.
Games as a service, Suicide Squad games don't get made overnight, folks.
I mean, overnight, it's been like 6 years.
Well, it's been, 2015 was Arkham Knight?
4 years.
So 4 years, probably 6 years by the time this thing comes out.
I mean, you're not ready to show it 4 years later? What the hell?
I don't know what's going on.
That's a bad sign, people.
I mean, there's persistent rumors that Montreal has Arkham Crisis in the pipeline, which is supposedly based on Court of Owls.
Yeah.
But whatever Rocksteady's working on, something's up.
Warner Brothers got to be getting pissed, man. I mean, holy crap.
I don't know. I don't even have a theory on that one.
It's really bizarre.
They were churning them out for so long. Like it seemed
Like a machine.
And now I don't know.
Let's see. Anything else? I cannot read your name because it's like purple on black. But your question is, do you think Microsoft will make Minecraft Xbox exclusive next gen?
That is OCD Master 1.
Okay. Thanks, OCD Master 1. Will Minecraft be exclusive?
No.
No.
Minecraft will be on everything, including your toaster.
Yeah, it's too late. It's like the old saying goes, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Like,
Yeah.
Once it's out, it's out. Like, you can't, like, release something like Minecraft for Nintendo and Sony platforms and then decide you're going to pull it back for the next generation.
Yeah, I think Microsoft is more interested in having Minecraft be a ubiquitous thing in everyone's life.
It's just a platform.
Growing up.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
all it is.
20 to 30 years from now, they will reap the nostalgia bucks.
They're already reaping the
Hardcore.
bucks. They've already made their investment.
Oh yeah,
back
but I'm
in
saying
this,
like you're creating sort of a Mario cycle here, where like kids are growing up with it. They're going to get older. They're going to get nostalgic. They're going to want to play it again when they're older. Then they're going to want to introduce their kids to it. And it's like it just goes on.
It's a toy.
Companies can go their entire existence without getting a property like that, and that's why they spent so much money to get it.
Yeah, I think.
So it doesn't do them any good to lock it away. You want it on, because kids don't have Xboxes. They have tablets.
They do.
You want them playing everything on whatever they got, anything with a screen.
Yeah, that cat's out of the bag. Minecraft is going to be for the people forever. W. Matthew, we'll take a couple more because we're already kind of running over. With Sony copying Directs, do you think Microsoft follows them? And this ends up being the last big in-person E3 stage conference. Interesting.
It is not out of the question, but I feel like both Sony and Microsoft are going to want to do stage presence for their new console reveals.
Yeah. And he finishes it off by saying, I can't think of any business sense in spending millions to host a stage show anymore. Better return on investment to just stream a video.
I think the merit of a media circus around your new hardware is still a viable thing, but could this be the last time we see an in-person hardware unveiling? Maybe.
It's possible. It's kind of crazy to think about. You have to separate E3 press conferences from E3. So we say all the time, you need to be at E3 because you're going to reach all these mainstream publications that normally never cover the industry. That's E3. E3 press conferences are separate from that, but not completely discrete, because what most of those people from those mainstream publications want to go to is the big event, the ballyhoo, the press conference, whatever. Can you trust them to go on the floor and try to find out about the products? Probably not as much.
I mean, you'd have to do your own footwork on that.
Yeah.
It's not like us asking for appointments. You'd probably have to contact CNN and say, hey, you want to see this, this, and this.
Yeah, and I mean, Microsoft would do that, but would CNN be like, it's starting to sound kind of like a hassle? Like, I don't know.
Probably not. I mean, way dumber and weirder things get reported on.
It's true.
I mean, it's a 24-hour news channel, 24-hour news
it's
cycle.
LA. It's not like you're asking them to go to Europe or anything, but they're in Europe too, so.
But it's, I mean, I think it may hinge very strongly on how Sony feels about how skipping it paid off for them here.
Yeah. I don't even know how you quantify that.
I think Sony knows. It's for themselves.
I'm just wondering what metrics they would use.
Probably Death Stranding sales.
Yeah. I guess.
I mean, you put that out, did you lose any eyeballs? Did you lose any sales? Did it meet your expectations sales-wise? If it does, what did you miss?
It's hard to know, though, what it would have done if they had been at the show.
No, it's not. They know. There's always projections of what these things are expected to sell. That's how they budget them. So
yeah, but projections are projections. They don't always come true.
Projections are usually correct in marketing, though, unless you really make a misstep. And this could be a real misstep if the projections are way off. But if they're not way off, the point is you didn't lose anything by skipping E3. It did not boost anything to the point of being what was essential to meeting your projections.
And to answer your question, yes, I absolutely think it could be the last big press conference. It also, I'm kind of a little sad thinking about it. That, I'm like, well, I got to be here and stream. I would like to be at the last big E3 press conference, and it could be.
I think if there is a last big E3 press conference, it will be Microsoft next year.
Yeah.
They will have a press conference for their new hardware. Sony, maybe not. But I think probably, but maybe not.
Yeah.
But Xbox will do it.
I don't think Nintendo will ever do it again.
Nintendo will never do it again.
Yeah.
They don't need to.
I don't think we'll ever see another Nintendo press conference.
Well, the rent on the Kodak Theater got higher and higher. So.
Yeah. Okay, we'll answer one more here. Super Cordon Blue, just want to say I love the show. Keep up the great work. Thank you, man. We really appreciate it. Can we expect finally a legendary reunion at E3 between Shane and Jeff Keighley and a collaboration? I think you can expect that to definitely not happen.
You might see him.
Maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know what's up with him regarding me, to be specific. And I'm not going to go into a lot of details here because that's something I need to talk with him about. But there's something weird going on with him. I don't know what it is. Let's David, the last one. Do you think it's better to have next-gen exclusive games or do have next-gen games be able to be played on last-gen also? That's a good question.
Yeah. I think if it's feasible in terms of scalability, it does not hurt you to make them compatible with last-gen. Especially in terms of how expensive these new systems are going to be and the nature of the economic climate, because buckle up for next year, folks.
Yeah.
All the signs of an economic downturn are in place. But the idea of kind of letting you play these things, but also they're going to be way better if you have this new hardware, but not sort of pressuring you to get the new hardware in order to play them, might be the soft approach that you need to kind of make this generational transition work.
It's tough. I mean, we've never dealt with this before, really.
Yeah, but if you're going to kind of this more like a phone-style model, phones, the advantage of having something on your new phone is that it runs better.
And we're starting to see, though, the consumer turn away from that cycle.
True.
I mean, Apple's going through it right now. It's a good thing Apple was smart and started transitioning its business before it started happening.
But Apple's also trying to sell you a stand for $1,000.
Right.
So, it all comes down to kind of how much these new systems cost and sort of whether they think it's smarter to kind of force people's hands in order to play these new things, and will it just be enough to say like the games you already have will be better and look better on these new systems, or will it be better to like not freeze out PlayStation 4 owners from the next hotness?
It's a catch-22.
It is.
Because the way they've sold consoles in the past has been, hey, there's this hot new game that you can only play on this new console. Mm-hmm. Now,
is it enough now to just count on the general public's desire to have the next PlayStation? That's kind of the question you're asking here.
Yeah. It's a good question. Good job, David. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you. I don't get flummoxed very often, but this one is tough.
I don't know if anybody knows the answer. I think that's what we're going to find out.
It is. It's a wild card.
And
it makes you wonder.
This is going to be one of the strangest generational transitions of all time, I think.
And it makes you wonder too if things don't take off right away, if then suddenly the stance is changed and they start going at it and they're like, wait a minute, this game was supposed to also play on PS4 and look a little worse, but you know what? Maybe we just need to make this game just for PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I think you will definitely run into that. Some stuff just won't work. I mean, you're going to lose the ray tracing. You're going to, it depends what your target is, But I think even if it may not be a terrible idea to, even if you have to kind of downgrade the game to run on potato settings, to still not freeze out your PlayStation 4 user base.
It's a tough balancing act. It's going to be interesting to watch, for sure.
I mean, Sony just made a bold move not going to E3. They might make another bold move in that arena again.
Yep.
So who knows?
Yep.
And certainly Microsoft could do it if they wanted to, because everything uses the same architecture at this point. It's just a matter of scalability.
Yeah, I think all of them can do it.
Yeah.
It's not a technical problem.
And also, you don't have to do it with all of them.
Yeah.
You could do it with like kind of the lesser releases, like Ori and the Blind Forest 3 or whatever it's going to be, and like you have that be sort of compatible.
The Blind Forest.
But if you what?
I love that.
Is that what it's called?
Is that what it's called?
That's the first
one.
one.
The Will of the Wisp. Oh, you're right.
The first one's called Ori the Blind Forest 3. I don't know what they call it. I don't know what floofy name.
The Will of the Wisp.
But like obviously, I don't think Halo Infinite's going to be backwards compatible with Xbox One.
You don't?
No.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Like as a platform, I guess?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it'll look worse.
Interesting.
But I think it'll be playable. I think that's going to happen with almost everything going forward. And I think especially on Microsoft's side, because Microsoft isn't really protective like that. It's like, you know what? All we want to do is sell as much software as possible.
Yeah, all we want is for you to show up.
Yep. So
could be.
It's going to be interesting to watch for sure. But again, great question, man. Good stuff. So that's going to do it for 171. We're way over 3 plus. I knew this episode was going to be long. We had a lot to get through. It's a huge episode. Our last episode before E3 is always a big deal, and it takes a lot of time to get through all the content. So we'll be seeing you guys on Sunday. We'll be right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/SiftedGames. You should probably follow us right now or bookmark it. That way you get alerts when we go live, because it's just going to be, we're going to be going up and down, all the way through E3. And when that happens, you'll get an alert letting you know that we're back up and you can join the stream. So, like I said, we got great stuff in the works for E3 in general, not just with our live streams. Check it out on the site. We've got a big article up going through our entire schedule. We got big stuff going for pre-E3 all this week before the show kicks off, and then all that week, and then our best of E3 for Saturday. I hope you guys will join us. It is going to be awesome. So with that, we'll see you guys on Sunday. GameFace is up and out.